Hey everyone, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy the audiobooks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support us further, consider becoming a Patreon member. As a member, you'll gain the ability to request the next part of a novel audiobook I've uploaded, depending on your Patreon tier.
On the high platform, the organizers sat. The president frowned slightly. He was very familiar with the hidden blade guest, knowing that his chain knife technique was formidable and hard to defend against. He remembered that this time the hidden blade guest had custom-made weapons, the double combination knife. Double combination knife, a knife created by the hidden blade guest, where a big knife hides a small knife, making one knife as effective as two. On the stage in Area 16. Many people believed this attack would surely hit. But no matter what, Lin Youzi was at the Yellow Realm Stage 1. He used all his strength, drawing out his spear and waving it in front. Thump, thump, thump. The wooden knife and the wooden spear clashed fiercely. The attack from the three knives was intense. I can't defend passively like this, I need to create some distance. Lin Youzi quickly retreated, keeping his eyes on the hidden blade guest. At this moment, the hidden blade guest was holding his double knives again. The knife that was clamped between his legs just now was gone. No wonder he was a top 100 competitor, his skills were indeed strong. Lin Youzi had to use all the physical strength brought by his realm. After all, if he only used half his strength, his speed would not keep up, and he might lose. He had reasons he couldn't afford to lose. Lin Youzi hadn't learned spear techniques, using a spear was like a blind man's punch defeating a master. There was no hope in a duel of techniques, only by leveraging the advantage of his realm could he win. Knowing his strengths, he also needed to understand his weaknesses. Using his weaknesses to confront the opponent's strengths would be foolish. So, Lin Youzi abandoned close combat. It was a mistake not to bring my bow and arrow. Next time, he would definitely bring his bow and arrow, no more arrogance. He started circling around the hidden blade guest, trying to observe where the hidden knife was, so he could be prepared in advance. But after watching for a long time, he didn't find the third knife. The hidden blade guest could guess Lin Youzi's intention. He deliberately exposed his back, creating a flaw. Sure enough, Lin Youzi fell into the trap. No matter what, the hidden blade guest was an experienced fighter. Just as the sneaking spear was about to reach, he sidestepped, calmly watching the spear fly past his chest, and thrust his left-hand knife forward. This strike slashed Lin Youzi's straw hat off, and his right-hand knife turned into two. Just when he planned to slash, he held one of the small knives with his left elbow. Suddenly, as Lin Youzi's straw hat flew off, his long hair fell down. Seeing this, the hidden blade guest froze, exclaiming, "You're a woman." Taking this opportunity, Lin Youzi exerted force, the spear tip shook, and struck the hidden blade guest in the chest, making him stagger and fall off the stage. The audience erupted. They were no longer concerned about winning or losing but wanted to know if the cloak guest was male or female. The long, black, silky hair and the bright, round eyes suggested an unusual identity. The cloak guest is a woman. It seems like it, the hidden blade guest never fights women. Damn it, the despicable hidden blade guest actually ruined the young lady's straw hat. Upon realizing that the cloak guest was a woman, all her previous clever tactics were now seen as cute. You say the cloak guest likes to ambush and lacks martial ethics. Come on, it's called wisdom. Do you think everyone is a brute? The young lady's physical strength is no match for a man. What's wrong with using a little strategy? Public opinion shifted instantly. The hidden blade guest below the stage smiled wryly. He was truly unlucky to encounter a woman, making him really unable to fight. The referee announced the match result. The first match of the main competition in Area 16, the cloak guest wins. I lost. Hearing the result, the hidden blade guest felt immense emotion, stood up, clasped his fists, and apologized. "Miss, I will reimburse you for the damaged straw hat at its original price." Lin Youzi didn't know what to say. Should he explain? The incident had already occurred, and any explanation would be futile and might increase the risk of exposure. So he silently picked up the straw hat, put it back on, and walked off the stage quietly. The results from the other stages were out. In Area 1, Jiang Yongji won narrowly. Who could have thought that his stick could extend and enlarge? Captain Jia had perfectly gauged the distance, but suddenly the stick extended and knocked him off the stage. Furious, Captain Jia kept cursing from below the stage. Jiang Yongji's response was straightforward. All's fair in love and war. In Area 3, the Valkyrie remained undefeated without suspense. No one had tested her true strength yet. Some guessed that underneath her outfit was a strongman. The old man from Area 5 won, using a broadsword. In close combat, he quickly defeated his opponent. After winning, he poetically said, "You are all mere rats, selling your heads for a price." Very domineering, very arrogant. The green watermelon-headed father and son lost. Their youthful and passionate combo technique couldn't be used together. When separated, they were useless. They stopped at the main competition. When they lost, the three of them hugged each other and cried, deciding to leave the commercial center by doing handstands. They also planned to make it to the main competition in next year's tournament. Youth never fades. The black robe man had strong chains. He disarmed his opponent, tied him up, and threw him off the stage in a strange posture. The reason it's called the main competition is that the strength of many strong players can't be hidden in 1v1. A single mistake could lead to an upset. Many matches were played in Area 16. Lin Youzi went up again. Yes, that's the point system. One person can compete in many matches. This time, he got smarter and brought a bow and arrow, not giving his opponent a chance for close combat. "Miss, can I see your face?" The opponent started with an impolite remark. Lin Youzi frowned slightly, and at the referee's call of "begin," he quickly drew an arrow and shot. In less than a second, the paper target at the opponent's vital spot was stained, and he started feeling dizzy. Realizing he was about to faint, he shouted with all his might. "That's against martial ethics, sneaking an attack." With that, he fainted under the effect of the anesthetic. The display of archery skills made many people shudder inside. Indeed, under the new rules, it's not necessary to use the 18 traditional weapons. Isn't that black robe man also custom-made chains? Soon, all sorts of strange weapons appeared. No one dared to hide their trump cards anymore. They feared encountering an unethical old six like the cloak guest, who might suddenly sneak an attack. Losing would result in point deductions. The number of matches a person can play is limited, up to 20. After 5 consecutive wins, the next win adds 5 points, 10 consecutive wins add 10 points, and 20 consecutive wins add 20 points. There's number 15 consecutive wins bonus. In other words, if you win all matches, the score is at least 55 points. Jiang Yongji bet on himself winning 5 matches, which means by the end of the competition, he would have 5 points. It sounds difficult, and doing it is not easy at all. Jiang Yongji had also competed in 2 matches. He lost the second one. Matched against the black robe man, he held out for 5 minutes, earning praise from his opponent. To withstand 5 minutes under the hands of a boundary practitioner was quite commendable. Other competitors had mixed results. From this, it was clear who the strong ones were. In the first tier with 2 points, those who initially entered the betting pool were far ahead. Some had already reached -2 points. Soon enough, the morning matches ended. Lin Youzi had no matches in the afternoon. This time, the matches were screened by a supercomputer, so some people might not have any matches on the same day. Since the main competition lasted 20 days, some might not get scheduled for any matches in a day, while others might get several matches on the same day. By the end of the day, the worst score appeared. -6 points. Scheduled for 6 matches in one day, and lost all 6. It could be said that his elimination was a certainty. The hidden blade guest also had many matches, winning the 3 that followed his loss to Lin Youzi, thus catching up to the first tier with 2 points. As matches were only arranged in the morning and afternoon. After the afternoon matches ended, there was plenty of time left. Lin Youzi changed into casual clothes and decided not to wander the streets of Area 16. That place was too dangerous and always troublesome. This time, he randomly chose and arrived at the 6th Street. Unexpectedly, he encountered a somewhat familiar person there. "It's you again, miss. Can we exchange contact info this time?" "All right." 3 times now, this film sister met again. It really was just good luck. After adding him, she excitedly showed off to her fans. At this moment, a tall, handsome man walked by, and film sister exclaimed in surprise. There's actually such a handsome guy. Hearing this, Lin Youzi looked over curiously. Indeed, the guy was tall, nearly 1.9 meters, and genuinely handsome, but his eyes seemed rather strange, almost emotionless. A very peculiar man. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Wait, hey, that handsome guy looked over. Do you want his contact info? Why would I want his contact info? I want to eat. I'm leaving. All right then. After the meeting, they parted ways. Barely half a minute after the reluctance of separation settled in film sister's heart, her lustful thoughts arose, waving at the 1.9-meter handsome guy. In the distance, Yin Yanzhou's face darkened. Who is this person waving over here? Does she know someone in his direction? Or is this woman actually waving at him? He was sure that she was indeed waving at him. It was an instinct. Not interested in meeting other women, he turned and left. Earlier, he seemed to have seen a familiar figure. I must be sick, everyone looks like Lin Youzi. On the other side, Lin Youzi approached a street vendor and bought a jianbing guozi and a box of takoyaki. Delicious, so tasty, he wanted more after finishing. Lately, his stomach had been strange, always craving snacks. He swore it wasn't like this before. But well, eating is eating, no worries. Even if he got poisoned, there was still the holy water protection. He couldn't wrong himself. Life goes on, food doesn't stop. Live to eat, eat to live. Little did he know, while he was enjoying his food, someone had already spotted him. Finally, I found you, you better not get caught by me. Qian Wujin licked his lips. This time, he didn't dare to act recklessly. With martial artists hidden everywhere, he had to be cautious. Among ordinary people, there were really those who could beat peers. Who on earth is the boundary practitioner? Darn it. And he realized that the cloak guest was the little girl in front of him. He would never forget that archery skill. However, Qian Wujin forgot one crucial thing. He was wearing a vintage suit, an outfit so odd and attention-grabbing, coupled with a sinister smile from a peeping angle. This led to him being reported by passers-by. Patrolling officers came up to him and asked him to show his ID. Lin Youzi glanced over to where Qian Wujin was, noticing a crowd gathering again. Curious, he sweetly asked. Grandma, what's happening over there? Little girl, there's a peeping Tom over there, dressed all fancy but hiding in the corner, watching young girls. You need to be careful. I understand, thank you, Grandma. Lin Youzi didn't know he had such a skill, his voice always uncontrollably slid into the female range. Darn it, it's all because of the heavens. Speaking of which, it's strange, what happened to the heavens? They hadn't been bothering him lately. The heavens themselves were struggling. Half of Blue Star had been eroded, and its wool was being suppressed, unable to take any action. Blue Star is 70% water. Now, 50% of the water surface had been eroded by the Mist Realm OL. In the 30,000-mile deep ocean, strange creatures had already appeared. The civilization of the Mist Realm creatures was being born there. Many mutated marine creatures had developed a bloodthirsty habit. They began slaughtering each other. This led to a rapid decline in marine life. Marine creatures started evolving rapidly by devouring each other. The deeper the sea, the more dangerous it was. Among them, the rumored creature emerged, the Mosasaurus. A creature that should have gone extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period bizarrely appeared under the mysterious power of the mystic realm OL. Its head was gigantic, and its body length reached 100 meters, surpassing the current record of 17.3 meters. Furthermore, the Mosasaurus kept devouring surrounding life, with its intelligence and body still evolving. The ancestors of the Mosasaurus were land-dwelling, scaly lizards. However, the creatures of the mystic realm OL could no longer be judged by the biological rules of Blue Star. The erosion of the mystic realm OL continued. With each increase in erosion, the world changed. The seas around the nation seemed calm. But in reality, there was already an undercurrent. In the Light Nation, within the Light Palace, A document named the Peacemaker Plan was signed by the president. The content of the document flashed briefly. Blow up the seabed. And this was the opportunity for oil capture that Lin Youzi seized. The opportunity was near. Danger was also imminent. On the high seas, a fleet of long-distance fishing boats had been missing for a month. This had happened before, and no one paid much attention. They thought it was a signal error and sent a supply ship for repairs. At this time on the high seas, fishing boats from various countries were gathered together. They set aside their national conflicts and all gathered together. Huayu Nation's boats were in the center, because Huayu Nation's boats had reliable quality and were safer. The boats circled around, with the outermost circle consisting of boats from various countries, used to fend off strange fish appearing from nowhere. Yes. Strange fish. These fish could even eat steel. This change occurred 3 days ago. On that day, they routinely reeled in the net, only to find it damaged, with large bites taken out of it. At first, no one cared, thinking it was a shark. When they planned to change positions and retrieve the anchor, they found it bitten off. The waves weren't even big, which was why no one noticed the anchor was broken. But when they saw the sonar imaging from the seabed, their expressions turned serious. In the control room, the seabed appeared desolate, devoid of any life. Sensing something was wrong, the captain of the ship immediately called for help. Fortunately, the signal was able to be transmitted. But the signal was only received by other nearby ships and couldn't be sent far. Upon learning that the other ships were also present, they all rushed over. It turned out they had encountered the same issue. The seabed was devoid of life. When they tried to use satellite communication to send a message, they found that all signals had vanished. It continued to rain, with a dark, overcast sky, making it impossible to see the sun. The unusual magnetic field and the pitch-black sky left them unsure of how many days had passed and whether aid would arrive. A supply ship transmitted signals in real time and set out for the high seas. As the old saying goes, deep waters form an abyss. The deep sea was black. On the supply ship sat an experienced captain who had navigated this route for decades. He immediately noticed something was wrong and promptly reported the anomaly. Upon receiving the message, the Coastal Defense Command Center consulted higher-ups and deployed a satellite to observe the area where the supply ship was located. A clear, colored image appeared. Not good, there's a problem. In the photo, the lone ship sailed on the pitch-black sea, as if walking on ink. The sea was very calm, with not a breath of wind, completely still, as if the ocean had lost its vitality. In the stark contrast between light and dark, the supply ship appeared even more desolate, the only light in the dark sea. At this moment, the think tank at the command center analyzed the existing data and concluded that the fishing boats on the high seas were most likely doomed. Sending aid now was not a wise decision. AI data indicated that this rescue mission posed an excessively high risk and recommended abandoning it. On the supply ship, the old captain silently grasped the radio. He knew this might be the last time he spoke to the command center. Then, he gathered all the crew members. You all come over here. If anyone wants to return, you can go back, I will lower the lifeboats. If you want to stay, come here and say what you need to say. The crew were not just sailors, they were also soldiers. Although uneasy, they bravely carried out their mission. No one stood up to leave. Very well. The old captain began to leave a message, hoping that people would never forget the scenes of men triumphing over nature from ancient times. Chief, I deeply apologize. Supply Ship 007, Captain Deng Shiming, offering my apology. From now on, I won't be able to contribute to the oceanic endeavors. He removed his hat and saluted in the direction of his homeland. The rest of the crew did the same. Determined to face death. Their ancestors never chose to retreat in the face of danger, confronting natural disasters head-on. When had they ever retreated? My life is in my hands, not in the hands of fate. Nuwa mending the sky and you the great controlling the waters are intrinsic qualities of this nation, never accepting fate. The 9 crew members left their final messages. Mom and Dad, we are going on a mission. The duration of the mission is a lifetime. Please forgive this unfilial son's silent departure, I can only fulfill my filial duties in the next life. Loyalty and filial piety have been hard to reconcile since ancient times. Many people's hearts can only hold a small family. Some people's hearts can hold a large nation. Because it can't be done, people admire and respect them. No one is qualified to ridicule those who charge on the front lines of danger. Forgive me, brother, you must study hard. The wedding, can it be postponed? Never mind, I wish you happiness. When I return, I will make up for the blessings. Make sure the child knows that his father was an excellent soldier, a hero. The messages concluded. The atmosphere at the command center was heavy, and the signal was already very weak. You, take care. The command center will always await your signal. No matter when, we look forward to your triumphant return. Yes, we will complete the mission. ZZZZ. With a burst of static, the signal was cut off. Satellites couldn't locate the supply ship anymore. The ship's signal vanished completely from the radar, as if it had never existed. Did we save the messages? Yes, we did. The technicians were deeply saddened. Separation always brings sorrow, and they didn't know what to do next. Should they inform the families about the messages? The command center's commander saw the technician's thoughts, patted his shoulder, and said earnestly, "Keep the messages safe. We have to believe in them. Our nation has never lacked miracles, and this time is no different. Miracles will happen." Yes, sir. The lone sail had crossed thousands of miles of Black Sea. People often say, a single tree cannot support a forest. Sailing on a lifeless sea, various negative emotions constantly tested their nerves. Loneliness, fear, solitude, and cold. The 9 crew members and 1 captain gathered in the cockpit, staring ahead. They had never lacked the courage to move forward in the darkness. If the descent of the mystic realm OL was to plunge the world into darkness, they were willing to burn themselves to light a path. As long as the fire was passed on, they could reclaim their light. Full speed ahead. The 10 of them, full of momentum. On the high seas. People from various countries stayed together. Food was gathered collectively. Of course, driven by human nature, some hid food. And there were no fish on their fishing boats. The first challenges they faced were food and then fresh water. Lastly, it was how long people could hold out without breaking down in such an environment. We need to stay united and trust our nations. Support will come. Below the sea. Many mystic realm creatures lived. These creatures couldn't be detected with Blue Star's technology. In other words, the seabed was teeming with creatures. But the people on the ships were unaware. The only thing between them and danger was thick iron plates. The crew members who jumped into the sea discovered the truth of the world. They wanted to warn those on the ship, but before they could say a word, they were dragged into the deep sea by strange fish. The unusual behavior of the person who jumped into the sea before dying caught the attention of some. They decided to take the risk and send someone to investigate. Be careful. I know. The vice captain, who was also an experienced diver, donned his diving suit and prepared the safety rope. After taking a deep breath, he fell backwards into the sea. The moment he hit the water, he yanked the safety rope. The captain on the ship reacted quickly, immediately shouting for everyone to pull the rope up. Even though they acted swiftly. When the vice captain was brought up, there was a strange fish on his leg, with a round mouth biting his leg. He was in immense pain. Seeing this, the crew used fire to get the fish off. Once the fish was gone, half of the vice captain's leg was missing, with signs of corrosion at the wound. Oh! The pain from the severed leg made him scream. This pain, akin to soaking in a pool of concentrated sulfuric acid, was unbearable, making even the sturdy vice captain cry out in agony. The ship's doctor rushed over to provide emergency aid. The captain and the helmsman summoned crew members from other countries to inform them of the underwater truth. Everyone, we're in trouble. At the same time, the supply ship continued its voyage on the sea, constantly monitoring the seabed. Hooks were hung around the ship to attract certain creatures. Sure enough, they caught a strange fish. Immediately dissect it. Understood. This was a good start, boosting the morale of everyone on the ship. Everything that happened on the sea was kept under wraps. But it wasn't just the single nation's ships that were missing, other nations' ships were too. Eventually, the news leaked out. When the news hit the internet. #fishing boats on the high seas collectively missing, YU Nation has dispatched a supply ship to investigate, #. In this information era of 3032, it's very hard to lose contact. Especially on the high seas. Satellites scan the area daily. But now they were indeed missing. Some people link this phenomenon to the legendary Devil's Triangle or Bermuda incident. The higher-ups still hadn't provided an explanation. After all, it was too far from the mainland, so people's feelings weren't as strong. Those who slightly understood the truth of the world, the boundary practitioners, had serious expressions. Like Shuri Fong, her beautiful willow leaf eyebrows furrowed. How could this be? The sea signal should go missing half a year later in my previous life, why did it happen in just 2 months? She was puzzled, feeling that things were spiraling out of control. No matter what, she was also one of the first to survive after the mystic realm OL descended. But now, she couldn't understand the situation. Could the butterfly effect really be this strong? The YU Nation had a specialized field studying divination, renamed topology. Nationwide, fewer than 10,000 people studied this discipline. These people spent their days researching future events, often appearing mystical to outsiders. But the upper echelons used divination and Shuri Fong's intelligence to learn many things in advance. When mysterious powers combined with divination, strange changes occurred. In the Kunyu Palace, 1,000 scholars were present, all wearing Taoist robes, listening to the lecture from the person in the high seat. To study divination, you must be well versed in the Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon, the Book of Changes, and Biopoesy. You must follow celestial phenomena. As diviners, you must understand one thing: it's easy to know the will of heaven, but hard to defy it. The person in the high seat had a sigil mark on the back of his hand. The sigil was already glowing. His side effect was a short lifespan. Every use of divination revealed a fragment of the future. Simultaneously, his lifespan decreased by 10 years. The next year, the side effects toxins would dissipate, and he could wait a year before using his ability again. But today, he wanted to teach the students another phrase. Although it's hard to defy heaven, I firmly believe that men can triumph over nature. With that, a tortoiseshell appeared in his hand, starting to shake, and he murmured to himself. Divination, unfolding skill glimpse a corner of the future. A simple skill description with an extraordinary skill effect. An aura of profound mystery emerged. The vision of the future appeared. He examined it seriously, his hair gradually turning white. The students below looked sorrowful, vowing to master this discipline. Name, Jugotomi. Gender, male. Realm, human realm stage 5. Ability, destiny sign. Side effect progress, October 10th, while under the influence of side effects, each use of the unfolding skill will reduce his lifespan by 10 years. Divination, unfolding skill glimpse a corner of the future. After a long time, Jugotomi exited his ability, weakly saying, "The human race has not lost." With that, he fainted due to the depletion of his life force. The students below immediately panicked. This sentence reached the ears of the 5-star general. There were 5 5-star generals in the YU Nation. Each had their own codename. Of course, not those like Dragon King, War God, or Son-in-Law. They sat together, discussing important matters. These major issues were unknown to ordinary people. Finally, the meeting ended, and the military commander said solemnly, "We cannot let this affect the martial arts tournament, or the public will speculate wildly." Agreed. Agreed. The martial arts tournament. It was one of the most important competitions. If it were suddenly stopped, it would signify that the nation was in trouble. If that happened, the public would panic. Therefore, no matter how dangerous it was outside, the danger had to be kept at bay to ensure the smooth running of the martial arts tournament. The martial arts tournament was like a flag on the battlefield, it could not fall. The main tournament had been going on for several days. During these days, Lin Youzi had competed several times. Today, it was November 10th. He had a match in the morning. After finishing it, he had no matches for the next few days. The referee loudly announced, Area 16, Cloak Guest vs. Hidden Blade Guest. They faced each other again. Both were taken aback. After stepping onto the stage, the Hidden Blade Guest clasped his fists, ready to concede. "Wait, are you looking down on me? I don't fight women." That remark was quite infuriating. Lin Youzi angrily retorted. "Then don't treat me as a woman." "I can't." "Are you afraid of losing? This time, you don't need to hold back, I can still defeat you." "You're right." Seeing that the Hidden Blade Guest had completely lost his fighting spirit, Lin Youzi became anxious and shouted. "If you don't dare to fight me, you're not a man." Upon hearing this, the audience's mouths dropped open in shock. The next second, they burst into laughter. "Whether he's a man or not, we have to test it to know." "Who said that? Don't drag us down if you want to die." "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect the Cloak Guest to have such an interesting personality." Look, the Hidden Blade Guest's face has changed. That statement really packs a punch. Indeed, it did. It directly challenged a man's dignity. The Hidden Blade Guest's expression became serious. "Miss, then I will be disrespectful." "I forgive your disrespect, bring it on." The Hidden Blade Guest spoke no more, holding his dual knives as he swiftly approached. He had specifically studied the Cloak Guest's combat style, knowing that her archery was incredibly strong. So, close combat was a must. As long as he got close, this time, he would win. It showed that the Hidden Blade Guest was serious. Good. Lin Youzi remained unflustered, drawing his bow and shooting. The arrows were fast. But all were dodged. Seeing the distance close to the dangerous range for an archer, Lin Youzi immediately retreated, pulling back. Running and shooting simultaneously. The Hidden Blade Guest began blocking with his dual knives. "Let's see how many hands you have." Lin Youzi reached behind, grabbing 4 arrows, drawing his bow and keeping his eyes on the Hidden Blade Guest. Now. The 4 arrows flew at different angles. If there is a rifle-shaking technique, then an arrow-shaking technique is quite reasonable too. The arrows traced incomprehensible arcs in the air, with one arrow skimming close to the ground. 4 directions. Front, back, top, bottom. Seeing this, the Hidden Blade Guest stopped, crossing his dual knives. After a series of incomprehensible maneuvers, a 4th knife appeared. The audience erupted. "Awesome. 4 knives, the Hidden Blade Guest rocks, so cool." 4 knives, 1 in each hand, 1 clamped at the left elbow joint, and 1 clamped at the right knee joint. The posture was peculiar. A bit like an octopus. The Hidden Blade Guest began spinning, blocking the incoming 4 arrows. But Lin Youzi wouldn't let him block so easily, continuously firing 4 arrows at a time. Thump, thump, thump. Sounds echoed on the stage. The Hidden Blade Guest blocked with ease. Lin Youzi felt behind, finding only 5 arrows left. He fired another 4, rushing in behind them. In the midst of running, he raised his hand and fired. This arrow was faster than the previous 4, disrupting the Hidden Blade Guest's defensive rhythm. He hurriedly dodged, with the 4 arrows closely following. He started spinning again. Just as he barely blocked them, a wooden bow appeared before his eyes. Thump. The wooden bow struck his skull, producing a crisp sound. A good head. The Hidden Blade Guest was momentarily stunned, just about to counterattack, when he found a short knife at his throat. His strength drained away, and the 4 knives fell to the ground. Lin Youzi looked directly into the Hidden Blade Guest's eyes, smiling. "You lost." "I lost." The referee then announced the Cloak Guest's victory. But the audience's enthusiasm was lukewarm. Despite the Hidden Blade Guest's impressive display with 4 knives, adeptly blocking arrow attacks and handling defenses perfectly, he still lost. It was truly baffling. But there's a saying, the longer you defend, the more likely you are to fail. The Hidden Blade Guest couldn't attack, always passively defending, with Lin Youzi holding the initiative. He shot when he wanted, however he wanted, and as many as he wanted based on his mood. Like the last 4 arrows, drawing out the Hidden Blade Guest's premature reaction. Then, 1 arrow disrupted the rhythm. Even if the following 4 arrows were blocked. Lin Youzi was there. First, he struck with the bow, then he held a knife at the throat. Who said archers couldn't engage in close combat? Even without arrows, an archer still has their bow. This time, Lin Youzi taught everyone a lesson. But it was a lesson no one wanted. It shattered their perception of martial artists as aloof and mysterious. If it weren't for the fact that the cloak guest is a girl, I'd definitely curse her. Me too. Now that you mention it, the cloak guest is quite impressive. I wonder whose young lady she is. Me too. Lin Youzi wasn't anyone's young lady, he was just an ordinary person who had been reborn. After winning this match and securing a morning of victories, he rushed back to school. There was a play rehearsal tomorrow, and he needed to return early today to practice. In the small villa, 3 people were sitting and chatting, with exquisite women's clothing beside the sofa. They had all gotten their outfit inspiration from the Urban Beauty newspaper. Although the 3 of them thought Shaolin wasn't a mature urban woman but a cute girl next door. Still, referencing some outfits was fine. My lace-trimmed top is great, very pure. Shaolin would look lovely in it. I think the light yellow long dress is nice. With Shaolin's fluffy long hair, it would look very graceful. No, it should be a JK uniform, showing off those long legs is always the best. Heh, Sun Mingren, you dare make Shaolin wear a JK uniform, aren't you afraid he'll beat you to death? Cough, 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 I was just saying. The third brother, Sun Mingren, coughed awkwardly, secretly hiding the JK uniform. He couldn't let them know he really wanted Shaolin to wear it. The eldest liked the pure little sister vibe, the second liked the graceful big sister aura. The third, well, he liked long legs. As they were talking, Lin Youzi returned. Tada, I'm back. The sudden voice almost made the 3 choke on their saliva. Cough, cough, cough. The 3 of them coughed so hard they almost spat out their lungs, fumbling around before pretending to be calm and asking. Shaolin, why did you come back suddenly? What, you don't welcome me back? I came back to rehearse for the play. Welcome, of course, welcome. It's just, we have a small request. Go ahead. Lin Youzi was in a good mood today, having finally won against the Hidden Blade guest fair and square. Who would dare say he won because he was a woman? Besides, he wasn't a woman. Nor a girl. He was a sunny, handsome guy. It's like this. The 3 had already prepared their lines. After speaking, they were tearful. Shaolin, this is for art. Think about it, those rough guys in the drama club, looking like crooked melons and split dates, how can they play beautiful girls? Yeah, look at us 3, burly and all, we don't fit the role either. The usually silent third brother also spoke up. This is our first club performance, and we spent so many days writing the script. What if we mess it up? The third brother started crying. Playing the sympathy card. They knew Shaolin had a good nature and was somewhat soft-hearted. Forgive us, Shaolin, this is the last time. Lin Youzi's mouth twitched slightly. He wasn't stupid, he could see they were acting. Who would have thought, he used to act pitifully to get his roommates to take care of him for days, and now karma had come. This was too fast, it must be the heavens' fault. But thinking carefully, they had a point. This was the club's first event, and he had seen their efforts. Writing was hard work, and they persisted for so long. Besides, after this year, the Mist Realm OL would descend, and it would be hard to find such an opportunity again. Maybe, he should take the role. Besides, cross-dressing was quite thrilling. Which guy isn't curious? No. Lin Youzi immediately reflected, how could he think of trying cross-dressing? This was just playing a female role, not necessarily cross-dressing. Oh no, my rationality is being influenced by the heavens, I'm a bit confused, what should I do? In his dazed state, he inexplicably agreed. When he came to his senses, he saw 3 pairs of expectant eyes. What are you doing? Shaolin, these are the clothes for tomorrow's performance. Can you try them on first so we can rehearse? Hey, be careful, your foxtails are showing. Lin Youzi felt like he had fallen into a trap, looking at the 3 expectant faces, feeling completely uncomfortable. We don't need to change for rehearsal, right? We do. The 3 of them moved in perfect unison, almost as if you could see the tails wagging behind them. Do we really have to change? Yes, we do. All right then. Lin Youzi reluctantly reached out and took the 2 bags of clothes. Wait a minute. How did they already have the clothes ready? Just as he was about to question them, he turned around. It was like seeing 3 little puppies eagerly waiting to be fed. Ah, I might as well be blind. Lin Youzi was frustrated, mostly with himself. He thought angrily, if they like seeing me in women's clothes so much, then I'll wear them. If I'm going to wear them, I'll be the most dazzling one. Holding the clothes, he went upstairs. In the bathroom. He opened the clothes, the price tags still attached. Thousands of dollars, no wonder they're rich kids, they really splurge. The fabric was excellent, just by touching it, he could tell it was high quality, with all sorts of luxury brands. What kind of taste is this, buying me a lace-trimmed off-shoulder top, can I even pull this off? He felt insulted, it was too much. Wait. Lin Youzi suddenly realized, looking at himself in the mirror, turning to the side. Damn. It wasn't an illusion, his chest was starting to grow. Despite his suspicions, actually seeing his body develop made him panic a bit. So, does this mean he needs to protect his chest to avoid friction with clothes? He could buy chest pads. Ah, why am I thinking so far ahead? Calm down, calm down. How could he calm down? What now, should he start wearing a vest? He was so flustered, even walking felt awkward. Clothes. He decided not to wear those clothes, instead, he found his own clothes from the wardrobe and changed. Based on the clothes' characteristics, he figured out the 3's preferences, so he knew what to wear. Pure clothes, simple enough. His current outfit was like the little yellow duck costume in a game. Yes, it was a short skirt. Since he decided to wear it, he would go all out. Come on, a real man never fears. The slight bulge on his chest barely gave the clothes some shape, not completely flat. And his little bird, well. In short, it didn't affect the short skirt. But safety shorts were still necessary. He slung a white shoulder bag over his back, put on a yellow hat, and after carefully checking in the mirror, he gritted his teeth and walked downstairs. But as soon as he saw people, his courage faded, and he stammered. Hi. Wow, Shaolin, you look amazing. The 3 instantly transformed from cute little puppies to big bad wolves with green glowing eyes. Perfect, absolutely perfect. The 3rd brother frowned slightly. If he remembered correctly, Shaolin's chest, could it be padded? As expected of Shaolin, so dedicated. Or maybe he remembered wrong. Whatever, Shaolin as the little yellow duck looked great too. Have you seen enough? Let's get started. Lin Youzi tried to keep a stern face, trying to look serious. But to the 3, it looked adorably fierce. The eldest thought. If I punched Shaolin in the nose, she would cry for a long time, right? I really want to hear Shaolin cry. Old 2nd, hey, maybe I am being a bit of a creep. Old 3rd, goddess feet, slurp slurp. Old 2nd, Lil Lin is so adorable. But too bad she's not the older sister type I like. Old 3rd, long, flawless legs. Just look at those perfect legs. So smooth and just the right amount of softness. Alright, enough staring already. Lin Youzi snapped, clearly frustrated from all the stares. Either we start rehearsing right now, or I'm changing out of this ridiculous outfit. Wait, don't. Don't change, please. We're starting now. The 3 immediately scrambled to get the rehearsal going, though it was clear that none of them were quite at ease. To their chagrin, Lin Youzi seemed to be enjoying this a bit too much. To see his usually smug roommates fidgeting and squirming like this, did they really think they could get him to play along without any payback? Putting on his best innocent face, he coyly said, "Big brother. What's next on the agenda?" "Oh, see could you maybe, just not," stammered old 2nd, struggling to keep his cool. Feigning a look of realization, Lin Youzi brought a finger to his lips. "Oh, I get it now. Big brother must be thirsty. Let me go get you some water." "Oh no, I can't take this anymore." Old 1st muttered, downing another glass of water, though it wasn't doing him any good. The more he drank, the worse it got. To go to the restroom now would surely get him labeled a perv. Meanwhile, Old Second was desperately chanting mantras in his head, trying to calm himself. Old Third's gaze had yet to leave Lin Youzi's legs, as if hypnotized. Seeing his 3 roommates crumble under his little act made Lin Youzi feel downright smug. "This'll teach you to trick me into this nonsense. Ha! Now you know what happens when you mess with me. You'll think twice before pulling another fast one." Buying the clothes was fate, not choice. If they think I'm actually into this, it's their own fault. Finally, he gave his sweetest performance yet. "Big brothers, I'm getting a little hungry. Can we finish up soon so I can have something to eat?" Hearing that almost made the 3 faint on the spot. Lin, please, stop talking like that. It's too much." Putting on his most puzzled expression, Lin Youzi replied, "What's wrong, big brother? You seem so uncomfortable." All right, let's just finish up this rehearsal," they agreed in a rush. After reciting their lines as quickly as possible, they fled upstairs, desperate for relief. "Big brothers, don't sneak off to the bathroom too quickly now," Lin Youzi called after them with a smirk, enjoying their panicked escape. "That's it. I'm done," Old First muttered, almost stumbling into his room. Inside, each roommate lit calming incense, put on Buddhist chants, and splashed themselves with cold water in hopes of finding some peace. Yet peace was hard to come by, especially as they all considered whether, just this once, maybe they should make an exception. After the 3 roommates went upstairs, everything fell silent. No way. Did they really go, take care of themselves? Did I just become their inspiration, or something? Lin Youzi chuckled, heading to the first-floor bathroom. Facing the mirror, he struck a series of poses. A little pout, adorable. A squinty smile, adorable. A peace sign, adorable. Darn it. I've done it again, fallen for my own looks. And it's all heaven's fault, of course. He finally decided it was time to grab some food, but the moment he stepped outside and felt the sun on his face, he darted back indoors. He didn't want to risk melting in broad daylight. No, I can't go out in these clothes," he muttered. "I'll have to change." As he went upstairs, he noticed faint incense drifting from his roommates' rooms, along with some low chanting. Standing there for a moment, he couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. Man, they're really something. Shrugging, he returned to his room, took off his outfit, and after a brief hesitation, hung it neatly in his closet. Can't throw away a gift from the roommates, he thought. Waste not, want not. He then headed out to grab ingredients to cook lunch. Shortly after he left, the 3 roommates emerged, each having fought through their urges and achieved an oddly serene state of enlightenment, their heads practically glowing with halos from all the incense and chanting. "It's all because of Lin," muttered Old First, still irritated even in his newfound tranquility. There was a long silence before Sun Mingren spoke up. I actually asked a doctor about Lin's situation, and he said the chance of success for that kind of surgery is about 90%. His words made the other 2 stare at him, eyebrows raised. Wow, they thought, he really went and asked. Lowering his voice, Old First asked, "And are there any side effects?" "Nope. Doctor said it's safe and no risk of relapse." Old Third chimed in quietly, "So, what do we need to prepare first?" "Just a small blood sample." They needed to match the treatment precisely. With that, the 3 of them put their heads together, plotting the best way to get Lin's blood. Just then, they heard the sound of the door opening downstairs. Lin was back from grocery shopping. The trio stealthily peered down the staircase, each slightly disappointed to see he wasn't wearing the little yellow duck outfit. But that was okay, they'd probably see it again soon. For now, they focused on how to get a blood sample. "We could say it's for a health check or something," Old First suggested. "You know, just a little routine test." "Or, maybe we should make it an adventure day," Old Second offered. "We could go for a hike, then suggest a quick checkup as an excuse." "That's brilliant," Old Third agreed. "Like, we're already hiking, why not get a little health check too?" Once the plan was set, they headed downstairs together. "Hey, Lin. Whatcha cooking?" Old First asked, sniffing the air as he approached. We've really gotta go through with this, he thought. Lin was definitely born in the wrong body. Luckily, by the year 3023, surgical procedures were practically flawless. Removing or altering an inch or two was hardly a big deal, especially with expertise coming from that country everyone joked about, where people were undergoing those procedures in record numbers. The success rate had risen so high that some recipients were now even living into their 70s. Back up. I'm frying fish, Lin Youzi snapped, pushing Old First's head away before moving to the other side of the counter to start on the soup. For lunch, they had corn, pork ribs, and carrots, along with a few simple stir-fried vegetables. It wasn't a fancy meal, just their usual homemade fare. The fish was small, fried crispy so each person could eat one whole. After they finished eating, the three roommates took over dishwashing duties without being asked, nodding at Lin Youzi approvingly as he headed upstairs for a nap. Downstairs, in the kitchen, the three roommates started whispering among themselves. Sun Mingren, the third roommate, leaned in with a hushed tone. Did you guys notice something? It looked like Lil Lin's chest has, well, developed a bit. Old First blinked. Are you saying Lil Lin's taking something? Sun shook his head. Not exactly, he said, face serious. Have you heard of something called pseudohermaphroditism? Old First looked even more puzzled. Huh? What's that? Old Third nodded knowingly, having heard about it before, and took over. Okay, so here's the deal. Like, let's say Lil Lin's always believed he's a guy, right? But inside, the reproductive system could be more, female, even though he's got the, well, outward male look. Old First's eyes went wide. You're saying, dual equipment? Exactly. It might look like dual equipment on the outside, but if that's the case, the male set doesn't actually work. This made sense to all three of them now. After all, when babies are born, they're usually classified just by checking if there's a certain, feature. Old First still looked uncertain. So, should we take Lil Lin to get, checked out or even, take care of it? Old Second grinned. Exactly. If it's a condition, we do the surgery. If it's not, we, proceed anyway. Old First chuckled. You're ruthless, Old Second, and I respect it. Hold on, Old Third reminded them, we still need to get a blood sample first to be sure. Then we can get it tested. Right. They whispered on, oblivious to the fact that if Lin Youzi knew their plan, each of them would probably get a smack upside the head. And they had even bigger plans in mind. They'd set aside the money Lin Youzi made from trading crude oil, figuring they'd give it to him during the Lunar New Year and use it as cover for this little operation. They planned to get the blood sample checked for any signs of the condition, follow up with whatever medications might be necessary, and then prepare for a smooth surgical experience if the diagnosis confirmed it. In fact, Lin Youzi had no clue about the potential danger from his friends. As far as he was concerned, they were just normal, slightly pervy guys. No problem there, they were guys, after all, and he understood. Lying on his bed, he scrolled through videos on his phone, waiting for a particular event that he knew would be the turning point for his next big trade. That's enough for now, I suppose. No use getting impatient, he muttered. Putting his phone away, he drifted off to sleep. Meanwhile, in the Spire Bureau of the Tower Nation. Laser Hero, the council orders you to head to the Central Sea for your next assignment, announced the bureau officer. Laser Hero, also known as the Homer, scowled. The council? For what? I'm on break, they better make this worth my while. Homer, this is a classified mission. You're the primary, everyone else will just be assisting. Complete this one, and you get a 6-month vacation. The Homer smirked, already glancing over the briefing. All right, now that's more like it. The Homer's smirk widened as he read over the mission plan, relishing its simplicity and destructive potential. Perfect, he muttered to himself, exactly my kind of mission. The mission brief read. Deploy a superhero to destroy the seabed transportation pipelines, cutting off energy supplies to the Central Front. He burned the paper with a quick laser flick and strode off toward the port, where a submarine awaited to take him straight to his mission. In the graduation scene, the 4 main characters' lives after college graduation are briefly showcased, each from a unique perspective. Lin Su, played by Lin Youzi, became a university counselor, helping students manage the pressures of job hunting and personal issues. Interestingly, some students began to pursue her romantically, hoping for a forbidden teacher-student relationship. Jiang Jun, played by Jiang Yongji, used his athletic skills to open a gym, which turned out to be profitable. Yet, during quiet nights, he couldn't help but reminisce about someone special, stirring up a strong urge to see her again. Su Yi, played by Su Yongchu, who built up a network in high school through some rough circles, managed to open a construction company after college. His connections made life comfortable, but he never forgot one person. Rumor had it that she was still single. Sun Yi, played by Sun Mingren, an excellent student, graduated and quickly joined his family business, eventually taking on a managerial role. Known respectfully as Mr. Sun, he held a respected title but felt something was missing. Having learned where she was, he decided to visit her to avoid future regrets. Given the tight timing, the graduation scene was brief. The focus shifted to the reunion scene, or the workplace chapter, for the final act. New props transformed the stage, and the four characters came together for one last scene. Among the audience was their senior Gong Sini, who had attended to support them but found himself regretting his earlier praise. The script's melodrama was so intense it felt like a soap opera. Still, he reserved judgment, hoping they might improve with more experience. In the reunion scene, the four friends met at a cozy bar, seated at a table with glasses of low-alcohol cocktails, actually just water props. Under the gentle breeze of the AC, they reminisced, laughing and sharing old stories from high school. Lin Su's character, dressed to appear like the sweet girl next door, was the focus of their attention. All three male characters, wrapped up in their roles and the nostalgic atmosphere, finally expressed the crushes they had kept hidden. Some audience members felt this wasn't acting, it seemed genuine, as if Lin Su's quiet smile had cast a spell. Although the cocktails were simply water, the three actors portrayed an air of drunken vulnerability, making their confessions even more compelling. With the hidden crushes revealed, Lin Su had to choose among the three. True to her character, she smiled gently and refused each one. "I've always seen you all as dear friends and never had those feelings," she explained warmly. "I'm so touched you came all this way to see me, but there's someone better waiting for each of you. We're not meant to be that way." Her comforting words only seemed to intensify their disappointment, and one by one, each of the three actors shed a tear. As if on cue, a somber song played in the background, perfectly echoing the bittersweet moment. "I'm totally fine staying single," one of them said, trying to brush it off. "Being single is awesome." "Yes. Long live the single life," the others joined in, clinking their glasses. The play concluded with a round of applause, and all the actors lined up to take a final bow, singing the Heartbreak Club anthem together. Though the 10-minute performance ended, most of the audience had their eyes on Lin Su, the charming female lead. Her on-stage presence caught the attention of a few young directors, some even daydreaming about casting her in future projects, or maybe even in an exclusive audition. The show wrapped up, and Gong Sini gave his review, a mere 6.6, just barely passable. Backstage, Lin Youzi slumped into a chair, feeling overheated and exhausted. Without real air conditioning in the bar set, they'd only had a cardboard cutout of an AC for effect. Now, back in the sweltering backstage, he felt the weight of the day settle in. Still, taking part in a club event was kind of a small dream come true. "Lin Su," someone called out. The performance was over, who would still be using his character's name? Lin turned and immediately felt the urge to facepalm. It was his three ridiculous roommates, red-eyed from crying. "Why are you still crying?" he muttered. They were a mess, sniffling and looking truly pitiful. Didn't they know crying could ruin their image? No one was going to feel sympathy for that kind of sobbing. Maybe he should give them a crying lesson. Nope, never mind. He was not about to start faking tears just to show them. Then he realized, much to his dismay, that he was still in costume. He headed to the changing room, only to find that it had already been cleared out and packed away. Wait, what? They already took everything down. This left him speechless. 100 different things to say, all stuck in his throat. He looked around for an escape, thinking. "Little Lin, why are you still in that outfit?" one of his roommates asked, already fighting back a grin. "Yeah, isn't the props team a little too eager, packing up so fast?" said another, with a barely disguised smirk. "What are you going to do now, change out in the open?" Suddenly, he noticed several people in the room looking their way, half smiling as if waiting to see what he'd do next. Without hesitation, Lin picked up his bag and swatted his grinning roommate. "Get lost, you idiot." His friend just kept grinning, completely unfazed. "Hey, hey." Meanwhile, the others grabbed their belongings and quickly dispersed, while one of them trailed behind Lin, continuing to complain loudly about the props team's early cleanup. Of course, deep down, everyone was secretly thanking the props team for giving them this unexpected finale. Lin left the theater in costume and headed through the tree-lined campus. Dressed in that outfit, he couldn't avoid attracting curious glances. Passing students, trying to be subtle, would glance back to get a better look at him. He caught sight of a guy on his phone, grinning at him with a dazed look while walking. "Hey, watch out for the pole," Lin warned him. The guy looked up, still smiling. "Hey, are you talking to me, beautiful?" "Yes, watch out for the pole," Lin repeated, emphasizing the word. "You got it, you're my only pole," he chuckled, making a finger heart. Just then, bonk, he collided with the pole. "Ow." The guy groaned, clutching his head. That had hurt. Lin shook his head, sighing. "I did warn you about the pole." As he watched the guy stumble off, he could barely suppress his laughter. After the guy walking into a pole incident, more students were keeping their eyes on the road, not on faces. Nobody wanted to end up colliding with a pole and get themselves a literal heartache from the embarrassment. Not far away, his 3 roommates were stifling their laughter. Little Lin in his girl's outfit truly had a certain charm, making so many innocent boys stop and stare. If little Lin really were a girl, he'd be a heartbreaker, one of them snickered. Agreed, the other nodded, watching Lin. They'd noticed that sometimes, he seemed to purposely make these sly little gestures just to mess with them. And his expressions, well, they were surprisingly hard to resist. They'd lost count of how many contributions they'd made in his honor. Truly, they thought, Buddha bless us. Up ahead, Lin Youzi quickened his pace. This was one unforgettable singles day, all right. He kept a strained smile plastered on his face, but it had grown stiff from overuse. Just then, he saw her in the distance. That woman. Shurifang. She was out shopping with a few of her friends, casually munching on a skewer of grilled meat. Oh no, he panicked internally, looking for any escape route. Since his retraceability had erased her memories last time, he had no idea how she'd react now if she saw him again. All or nothing, he thought, activating his ability to create a B-space, essentially a separate time slice. Bracing himself, he walked forward, hoping to pass by unnoticed. The moment his ability activated, the 8th petal on his shoulder mark lit up. At that exact moment, Shurifang paused, mid-step. Fang, something wrong?" "No, I'm fine," she replied, scanning her surroundings suspiciously. That feeling again. Someone's manipulating space-time around here, she thought to herself. Unbeknownst to Lin, Shurifang's rebirth was unique. After her first rebirth, she had changed Lin's life in a small way, but this alteration had indirectly led him to an early death within a month. Though she'd managed to protect his grandparents, she had mourned Lin's premature death bitterly, abandoning her once bright persona as the war goddess in a somber spiral of regret. Her second rebirth was different, she had no memories this time around. Only Lin retained memories of the past life he barely survived, his mind forever imprinted with the image of being trampled beneath the demon horse. Now, as she felt the energy fluctuation around her, she scoured her surroundings for the source, scanning each person passing by. Then her gaze landed on a striking girl in a dress. "Is that the guy I saw hiding from the rain?" He looked so pretty in girls' clothes, she thought, mildly surprised. She continued scanning for potential suspects, yet found nothing unusual, and eventually moved on with her friends. Once they'd passed each other, Lin Youzi breathed a sigh of relief. His ability safely ended, and the space-time slice he had created slipped back into the primary timeline. Crisis averted. This retrace power was really a lifesaver, a get-out-of-jail-free card. Ahead, he took a path toward the city's lakeside pavilion. Crossing through there would take him directly to the path leading to the dorms. There were fewer people in this area, which meant he could escape the constant stares. Hurrying home, Lin Youzi dashed up to his room and stripped off the outfit without a second thought. Finally, in just a few minutes, he was free and back in his own skin. But something caught his eye in the mirror. How did all 8 petals light up? Standing there, he noticed that the flower-shaped mark on his shoulder had fully illuminated with 8 glowing petals. And as he looked closer, he noticed something even more shocking. His chest seemed to be developing. "Ah!" he exclaimed, clutching his hair and sinking to the floor, utterly horrified. Under the shower, he tried to calm down. "What's going on? What's going on? My body, it's actually changing. Am I really turning into a girl? What do I do? What do I do?" Suddenly, he froze, his voice trembling as he muttered to himself, "Oh no, was I just acting cute?" Realizing this shift, Lin Youzi became even more distressed. Once Mystic OL arrives, there's got to be some kind of gender-changing potion available, right? There has to be. He had stocked up on so many basic potions in his East City warehouse, why hadn't he thought to look for something like that back then? Wait a second. He suddenly remembered that there was no such potion in Mystic OL. And even if there were, the powers of these items would likely weaken drastically after the game's reality shift. What do I do? What do I do? At this moment, he felt like an ant on a hot pan, completely clueless about what to do. Did wearing that outfit somehow make me sigh? Actually, he suspected the real culprit was his recent use of the tracing origins ability. Maybe if I just stop using my powers, I'll be safe. It seemed plausible. But was it really possible? He knew that unless he completely avoided using his abilities, transformation would remain inevitable. So I really can't change this fate, can I? He looked down at his flawless figure, feeling a pang of resignation. His skin was exquisitely smooth, seemingly perfect in every way. The only silver lining, he thought, was that he didn't have any close friends in this life. As for Shurifang, he'd already communicated the truth to her through a dream. And his online friends knew him as male, so he could always pass off any past conversations as jokes that were now just memories. Still, losing both friends felt a little lonely. Turning off the shower, he dried off, his skin now glowing in the warm bathroom light. Somehow, it was already evening. Draped in a robe with a high slit, he lay on the bed, eyes vacant as he stared at the ceiling. What could he possibly do now? Downstairs, the 3 roommates were eating, but they kept glancing toward the stairs. Did Xiaolin come back? Don't know. Did Xiaolin eat? Don't know. Did Xiaolin go to bed? Is Xiaolin mad at us? What's Xiaolin doing up there? They had a seemingly endless list of questions, all about Lin Youzi. Just as the eldest brother was about to ask another, second brother interrupted. If you're that curious, why not go up and ask? Don't you want to know? Then let's go ask together. With that, second brother admitted he was curious too. The 3 of them went upstairs, knocking on Xiaolin's door. Xiaolin, are you back? Have you eaten? I'm sleeping. That response wasn't what they'd expected. Looking at each other in resignation, they shuffled back downstairs. So, what now? Xiaolin's probably just tired. Let's get some early rest too. And so, at barely 9 p.m., they turned in for the night, a very early bedtime. Meanwhile, late at night, the central region finally discovered that one of their critical pipelines had been destroyed. Damn it, damn it. Issue a condemnation immediately. Instantly, the headline #Undersea Pipeline Explosion Cuts Off Central Resources, What's Next for the War, #shot to the top of the trending list, marked with a bright red, hot symbol. In mere moments, the number of people viewing the news hit the millions. Who did this? People were asking the same question. Who would dare blow up a pipeline? A project that took over a decade to complete and had barely been operational for a year was now in ruins. This pipeline was critical for transporting low-cost resources to numerous countries within the international alliance. With it destroyed, resource costs would soar, which meant living costs would follow. In the worst-case scenario, internal unrest might break out in some nations. As for environmental pollution, well, survival took priority over that for now. At this moment, despite the valves being shut off quickly, the leaking resources had already contaminated a large area of the sea. The ocean currents were carrying some of this pollution into the blackened waters tainted by Mystic OL. For the monstrous creatures of maze, deprived of food, these resources were a feast. Mutant fish began devouring the pollutants, their appearances twisting into something even more monstrous and horrifying. Around the neon-lit sea regions, radiation remnants attracted these creatures like a delicacy. It seemed that the more toxic a substance was, the more it appealed to mystic creatures. Unaware, the waters surrounding Neon Island were now packed with these monstrous fish. While the mutant fish posed a hidden threat, the immediate crisis was in the central region, which, faced with cut-off resources, began launching frenzied attacks to seize resources from surrounding areas. At its core, war is just resource plunder. With resources now scarcer than ever, many previously uninvolved nations were being dragged into the chaos. A full-scale battle royale had erupted, with cultivators seizing the opportunity to muddy the waters and establish new power bases. Werewolves, meanwhile, spread infection among severely wounded soldiers, forming an army of 10,000 werewolves. They needed no traditional resources, only blood and flesh to survive. Ideally, they would sacrifice tasty souls to the maze overlord. The tastiness of a soul, it turned out, depended on its quality. The more noble and pure the soul, the more flavorful. On the other hand, the amount of suffering experienced by the soul also left marks, making it less appetizing the more tortured it had been. November 12th. When Lin Youzi woke up, he felt like the world had changed overnight. He had only slept a single day, not a month. How could the pipeline incident have happened so early? He hadn't even completed his preparations. Damn, there goes my chance to make a quick 100 billion. Seeing that prices were rising but hadn't reached sky-high levels yet, he immediately bought up as many oil tankers as he could, loaded with crude oil. He also rented nearby warehouses, filling them as quickly as possible. Using the international trading market, he leveraged his account with a 100-fold margin again. But it seemed like everyone was copying his moves, jumping into the market as soon as he did. Damn it, what's wrong with these people? Lin Youzi couldn't help but curse. He knew his actions would attract imitators, which was why he'd planned to buy in stages at lower prices. But plans couldn't keep up with reality. The timing of the pipeline explosion had been pushed forward by months. He no longer had the luxury of laying out his strategy gradually. The entry of massive capital drove crude oil prices to soar. Within a single day, prices had quintupled. This had even worse consequences. Central region conflicts intensified as buyers began shipping resources back to their own countries, unwilling to leave any assets exposed in the central region out of fear they'd be seized. After all, with oil out in the open, it wouldn't just attract thieves. But Lin Youzi had no intention of moving his oil. As an individual buyer operating through the international market, he could only seize resources from under the noses of major powers. Bringing it back would risk losing everything halfway. Leaving it in the central region had an upside too. When prices peaked, he could sell directly on location, grabbing the advantage early. Naturally, this came with enormous risk. As the saying goes, in fortune's embrace lies danger, and sometimes downfall. He had no choice but to hire guards, spending a full billion on security. In this situation, he couldn't afford to skimp on security. This final investment was his ultimate gamble. If he lost, it'd be game over, and there were no do-overs or rebirths left for him. Losing wasn't an option. 100 billion in crude oil, protected by a $1 billion security force, hopefully, the coming months would pass without incident. After wrapping up all his arrangements, he realized it was already noon. He hadn't even brushed his teeth or washed his face. After a quick run to freshen up, he dashed downstairs. But it felt like he'd forgotten something. Downstairs, his 3 roommates were lounging on the sofa, watching the martial arts competition live stream. They had ordered takeout, munching on fries and sipping cola, totally relaxed. Suddenly, a noise by the stairs drew their attention. Jiang Yongji looked over, and puffed. Cola sprayed everywhere. What kind of outfit was this? Second brother Su Yongchu glanced over, his nose immediately feeling a little hot, and he quickly tilted his head back. Sheesh, I'm actually getting a nosebleed. Those long legs, just too enticing. Was this some kind of nightgown look? A bathrobe style? How could Xiaolin come down dressed like this? It was really. He secretly hoped for more appearances like this. Hee hee. Third brother wasn't faring much better, feeling his throat go dry. Xiaolin, actually has a great figure. And, not small at all. His gaze kept wandering to the upper half, where there seemed to be something rather intriguing. What are you all staring at? Their expressions were so odd that Lin Youzi hesitated, frozen on the stairs, just staring back at them. Until Jiang Yongji stammered, Xiaolin, I know we're all close, but that outfit, maybe you should be a little, more cautious. As he spoke, a breeze wafted through, bringing a sudden chill to his lower half. Lin Youzi snapped out of it and looked down. He was barely covered. A hint of cleavage was visible, only narrowly concealed. But that high-slit nightgown had left one of his long legs entirely exposed. He screamed, crouching down to cover his chest and shield his legs. Seeing that the three were still staring, he yelled, Don't look. The three instantly averted their gazes. Taking advantage of the moment, Lin Youzi bolted back upstairs in a flash. I'm doomed, I'm doomed, I'm doomed. And without the tracing origins ability, there was no turning back time. It's fine, he told himself over and over, it was just my legs. No big deal. Just my legs. As he threw on something more appropriate, he splashed cold water on his flushed face, forcing himself to keep a calm smile. But the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. In frustration, he punched a nearby window, shattering it. Staring at his reflection in the broken glass, he yelled, Ugh! This is so annoying. He hadn't even gotten a good look at himself, and they'd already seen his legs. Who knew how much they'd seen, maybe even all the way to his thighs? How could he let this happen? He blamed the sudden pipeline bombing for distracting him. Damn you. You're the reason I got distracted. Yes, it was all their fault. If it hadn't been for them, he wouldn't have rushed downstairs and forgotten to change his clothes. After changing his clothes, Lin Youzi carefully checked himself, inside and out, to make sure nothing was amiss. But as he looked at his chest, he thought, it really. Do I need to buy? He hesitated, unsure what exactly he should buy. But the thought came to him that transformation was likely inevitable. Besides, he had time before tomorrow's competition. He could buy a protector in the afternoon. Sighing with resignation, he threw on a jacket and headed downstairs. Xiaolin, you're here, Jiang Yongji coughed, glancing up. There's still some takeout left. Want to eat with us? I'll go eat out. Staying around these three was tempting him to vent his frustration, and he didn't want to risk losing control. Huffing, he left them and the apartment. Once outside, Lin Youzi walked toward the cafeteria, but paused, glancing at the second floor and debating whether to use his skills to reach it directly. Forget it. Better to eat off campus. Despite reaching the cafeteria, he felt uneasy, concerned that Shurifang might be on the second floor, and wary of any potential mishaps on the first floor. So he decided to go off campus for his meal. He found a grilled fish restaurant and, after eating, took a taxi to a large shopping mall filled with designer stores where even a few scraps of fabric sold for 18,888 yuan, all thanks to a brand label. The bikini and swimsuit sections were a particular price trap, where prices ran into the tens and even hundreds of thousands. Whether it was due to gold threads or embedded diamonds, he couldn't be sure. Well, maybe he could. One bikini on display was visibly adorned with actual gold and diamonds. As he stared through the glass at this glimmering, barely there bikini, a voice suddenly called out from the store. Young lady, did you come here by yourself? Is there something you'd like to buy? The store clerk stood by the entrance, smiling at him. Oh, How was he supposed to even respond? He glanced at the passers-by outside, then quickly stepped into the store, looking awkwardly at the regular-looking ladies browsing around him. Over in one section, he spotted the protectors he was looking for. He noticed some of the women casually selecting leopard print, lace, and, more minimalistic styles. He shook his head quickly, giving a dismissive wave before mumbling and pointing toward the women's section. I'm here to buy one of those. The clerk chuckled, amused by the girl's innocent demeanor. She smiled and explained, Sweetheart, that's the lingerie section. I think you're still developing, so we have some comfy sports bras over here that might be better for you. Lin Youzi felt like a human teapot, practically steaming with embarrassment, his cheeks surely beat red. So embarrassing. So awkward. The clerk led him to the juniors section, where they kept simpler sports bras that would provide just enough support. Here, judging by your build, you're probably a B cup. I recommend this one, she said, holding up a cute sports bra with a cartoon cat design. He shook his head rapidly. And no, not that one. Just plain is fine. So modest. We do have some plain ones too, this way. The clerk then began explaining the different materials and kindly reminded him that it was important to wash these garments thoroughly to avoid bacteria. She even suggested that since he seemed about high school age, he might want to size up soon since development can speed up during this stage. Oh, okay. Got it. Go ahead and try it on, there's a fitting room over there. He held the plain black sports bra in his hand, hesitating before finally shuffling into the fitting room. After taking off his shirt, he immediately hugged himself, glancing around, worried someone might peek in. By the way, sweetheart, that one has a back clasp. If it's tricky to fasten, just call me, the clerk's voice came suddenly, startling him so much that he reflexively crouched down on the spot. After realizing he'd only scared himself, he stood up with a muffled response, I got it. He fastened the 3 clasps on the black sports bra, although he reminded himself not to overthink it, no need to dwell on it too much, lest he seem weird. Once he'd put it on, he felt a surprising sense of security. Odd, really. When he walked out, the store clerk asked him how it felt. It's fine. Pretty comfortable. As he answered, his face turned red again. Seeing this, the clerk's maternal instincts kicked in, and she gently reassured him, sweetheart, don't worry. This is just a natural part of development. It's perfectly normal, so there's no need to feel embarrassed. You're already growing up so beautifully, when you're a bit older, I'm sure you'll have many admirers. Thank you. Oh, by the way, do you need any underwear? We have some here. In the end, Lin Youzi found himself, in a bit of a daze, buying a whole collection of undergarments and a surprising amount of women's clothing, all in a cute, modest style, including several long dresses. Standing outside the mall, holding multiple shopping bags, he looked up at the sky and muttered, the heavens must be powerful indeed, to influence my judgment like this. Clutching the bags tightly, he hailed a taxi back to school. Meanwhile, back at the dorm. After watching the afternoon's martial arts competition, the 3 roommates were bored, with nothing to do. Xiaolin was out, leaving them feeling rather listless. The eldest was sprawled on the couch in his shorts, looking at his thick legs, practically fur-coated with leg hair, enough to discourage any mosquito from even trying to bite him. As he zoned out, the image of Xiaolin standing at the bottom of the stairs earlier popped into his head, and he couldn't help feeling a bit stirred. Noticing his reaction, he glanced around, making sure no one was looking, and tried to calm himself down. Get a grip. Third brother, Sun Mingren, was also lost in thought, fixated on one thing. Does Xiaolin actually have a chest now? He was sure he'd noticed earlier. Small, maybe, but definitely there. His eye for measurements was spot on. Thanks to his family's clothing business, he'd grown up around models and had developed a sharp eye for sizing. Each of them was absorbed in their own thoughts, until Lin Youzi finally walked through the door. Oh no, why are these 3 still downstairs? He remembered them usually hanging out in their rooms, why did they seem to be lingering downstairs so much lately? The truth was, they'd been plotting ways to get a drop of Xiaolin's blood, and hanging around downstairs seemed like the best way to catch an opportunity. If they were upstairs, they'd have no chance at all. Xiaolin, you're back. What did you buy? Second brother asked curiously, standing up to peek into the bags. There's no way I'm letting them see this. Lin Youzi quickly blocked him. Stop right there, stay put. I just bought some clothes, that's all. He clutched the bags tightly and, like a cautious little fox, darted up the stairs in a flash. What's Xiaolin up to? No idea, the eldest brother said, shaking his head. He'd almost managed to calm himself down, but seeing Xiaolin's cute, flushed face made his self-control crumble. He needed some cooling off. I'll head upstairs too, he mumbled. Aren't you going to eat? Later. Second brother, confused, turned to third brother and saw Sun Mingren stroking his chin, brow furrowed in deep thought. What's up with you? I've discovered a secret. What secret? Not telling. Sun Mingren replied mysteriously, then headed upstairs as well. Earlier, he'd clearly noticed Xiaolin was wearing something under his shirt. He was sure of it. So, it seemed that Xiaolin might actually be a girl, simply believing herself to be a boy. This must be some kind of psychological condition that needed addressing. Determined to investigate further, he went upstairs to do some research. In the end, only Su Yongchu remained on the first floor, staring at the TV, utterly baffled. What's going on with everyone? I feel like I'm missing something here. Upstairs. In Lin Youzi's bedroom. He laid out the new clothes he'd just bought, item by item, taking a deep breath. Since I can't change reality, and this life is already a second chance, why not embrace a new version of myself? He was trying to convince himself. But it was still hard. He removed his old men's clothes. This was saying goodbye to his former self, to the life of Lin Youzi the guy. Maybe, my male self was destined to die, but my female self will survive. As these words slipped out, a streak of red clouds appeared on the horizon. In that instant, he had glimpsed the truth of his fate. In his first life, even though he'd been strong, his life as a man had ended in unavoidable death. In the second life, Shurifang had been reborn, trying to change his fate and protect his family, yet it had only led to his death within a month. Now, in this third life, he'd been reborn as himself but had chosen a female character, and it felt as though the wheels of fate were turning differently this time. He packed up all his men's clothes in a suitcase. After all, the university was an open-minded place. Wearing women's clothing shouldn't raise too many eyebrows. Besides, as long as he avoided skirts and the like, everyday clothes wouldn't look too different and wouldn't be too noticeable, hopefully. He chose a white top, layered with a white hoodie, and paired it with casual pants. The look was youthful and vibrant. At first glance, there was no mistaking him for anything other than a beautiful young woman. Putting on these clothes was a way of mentally preparing himself, a way of accepting what was coming. He knew he'd have no choice but to use his powers once Mystic OL arrived. The transformation was inevitable, better to face it head-on now rather than hesitate when danger struck. Stepping out in women's clothing was his first step. Dressed in his new outfit, he took a deep breath and walked out of his room. Downstairs, Su Yongchu was still glued to the TV, watching the martial arts tournament live stream, looking somewhat dazed. The commentator was introducing today's participants. Today we're in luck. We've managed to bring in Black Robe Man, and some viewers have a few questions for him, particularly about how he disarms his opponents. The commentator held the mic up to Black Robe Man's face. His eyes were utterly impassive as he looked into the camera, speaking words that left everyone utterly confused. This world is an illusion. When reality arrives, you who are illusions will vanish. I am guided by destiny, every move I make is bound by the rules, so disarming weapons is hardly an issue. It was the kind of overly dramatic language that sent the audience into laughter. Even the commentator chuckled. Looks like we've got a competitor with a sense of humor. He then moved on to another fighter, known as the One-Punch Guy. With a baseball bat and a hip-hop vibe, One-Punch Guy promised to knock his opponents down in a single punch. So, you've got a bat, but why didn't you use it in the match? One-Punch Guy, grinning and flashing his metal teeth, clenched his metallic fists and replied, knocking an opponent down with one punch is the highest form of respect. If one punch doesn't work, then I'll just hit them again. The commentator fell silent. Is there a single normal participant in this tournament? He was really tempted to post a meme video about the contestants' antics. These people are hilarious. That Black Robe Man is pure cringe, Su Yongchu chuckled as he munched on fries and sipped his cola. But Lin Youzi didn't find Black Robe Man's words funny at all. On the contrary, he suspected Black Robe Man was attempting to attract like-minded cultivators, those who operated on the boundary between worlds. Talking about the world's falseness was a way to catch the attention of certain organizations. Could he be trying to catch the attention of those army coat people? It was the most likely explanation. But since his position wasn't high enough, he had no insight into how the higher-ups might handle such people. Also, when Black Robe Man mentioned rules, he was clearly referring to his powers. Lin Youzi had done his homework on his potential competitors. He knew that Black Robe Man could use chains to disarm his opponents, especially melee weapons. But there was nothing to worry about since he'd be using arrows. If his opponent was truly powerful, let them try to withstand his arrows. Snapping out of his thoughts, he noticed Su Yongchu sitting there in a daze and smiled as he asked, "Have you eaten?" A soft, feminine voice drifted over, and Su Yongchu turned to look, instantly turning beet red as he stammered, "No, I haven't." One thought echoed in his mind, "Mom, I think I'm in love." In his new look, Xiaolin's charm was through the roof. "How about we pick up some groceries and cook back at the dorm? You can carry the bags." "Of course, no problem at all." Su Yongchu nodded eagerly. Seeing his enthusiasm, Lin Youzi turned with a smile, a light scent trailing after him as he said, "Then let's go." "Heh, this is fun. It's actually pretty nice being a pretty girl." Teasing his roommates just to make them flustered and uncomfortable felt oddly satisfying. Happiness built on their confusion. They arrived at the supermarket, and the cashier recognized him right away, exclaiming, "You look so beautiful today." "Thank you." He accepted the compliment with grace, then led Su Yongchu to pick out the ingredients. Watching them, the cashier suddenly had an epiphany. She must have found a boyfriend. No wonder she's dressed up so nicely. Feeling happy for her, the cashier even snapped a picture of them sweetly shopping together and sent it to her best friend. Of course, one friend always has another friend to share with, and soon, the photo of them, looking cozy, was spreading like wildfire among the students. Inside the store, Lin Youzi had finished picking out the ingredients and gave Su Yongchu a warm smile. "We're all set. Think you can carry all this?" "Absolutely. I'm in great shape." "All right then, keep up." "Of course." Su Yongchu, full of enthusiasm, marched behind him like a soldier on a mission. At the checkout, he started to pull out his wallet. "Let me pay, Xiaolin." "No, let me handle it. You guys are always covering expenses. Let me treat you all for once. You'll get to taste my cooking." "Sounds good." Oh, Xiaolin is so thoughtful, a perfect partner. Su's inner self was practically in tears of joy. The cashier looked on, a bit envious, thinking to herself that Xiaolin was so gentle, talented at cooking, and beautiful. I hope she finds happiness. All done, that'll be. On their way back, they had no idea that the tea-spilling video the cashier had casually posted was now trending on the school's forum. Damn it, who stole my goddess? Our goddess looks so perfect in that outfit. No, not some random guy. Wait, I know that guy. Isn't he from the martial arts program? I saw him during the tournament live stream. He already lost, didn't he? What? A loser dares deceive our sweet goddess. I get it, he's got the advantage of being in the same program. He tricked her with that. Come on, let's go confront him in person and make sure he stays away from our goddess. Outraged, a group of students began their investigation into Su Yongchu, vowing to teach him a lesson. If Lin Youzi knew about this, he'd probably cover his mouth and smile slyly. Yes, he was that kind of mischievous girl, or, rather, guy. But of course, he wouldn't actually let it escalate into a fight. For Lin Youzi, coming to terms with his new self wasn't something he could accomplish overnight. It would take a gradual process. In the meantime, he'd do some things that might seem a bit extreme, all to numb himself, divert his attention, and keep his mind off this drastic change. To others, he appeared cheerful, a smile always on his face, as if he were genuinely happy. But in truth, it was just a mask. Saying goodbye to his old self and living fully as a new person was too much to bear. Part of him wished he could just lose his memories, forget his experiences as a man. Maybe then, he'd feel a little more at peace. When he and Su Yongchu returned to the small villa, they found Jiang Yongji sitting on the sofa in saint mode, watching a live stream with a neutral expression. Sun Mingren hadn't come down yet, likely still gathering information for his research. As soon as footsteps echoed by the door, Jiang Yongji, ever alert, was the first to notice Lin Youzi's presence. One look, and his saint mode instantly shattered. Didn't I just get through this once? Why is this happening again? Oh heavens above, show some mercy. Who could explain why Xiaolin was suddenly dressed in women's clothing? And why was Su Yongchu trailing behind him, carrying the bags like a devoted little helper? And that smile on Xiaolin's face. This bizarre scene made Jiang Yongji wonder if he'd somehow hallucinated from, well, too many sessions of his own. Is it the world that's off, or is it me? He mumbled to himself, stumbling toward the bathroom to splash some water on his face. Seeing his dazed expression, Lin Youzi couldn't help but laugh. What's with the shock? Don't I look good in this outfit? Good, looks great, actually. Su Yongchu responded immediately, sounding like a devoted fan who'd lost all sense of reason. He looked completely enchanted, practically transformed into Xiaolin's loyal servant. Of course, this was all in good fun. After all, Su Yongchu was a rich kid who'd seen all kinds of women, except for Xiaolin. Let's get started on dinner. It's getting late. Could you wash these vegetables for me? Sure, no problem. Su Yongchu nodded eagerly, carrying the bags into the bathroom. A second later, a scream pierced the air. Anyone who didn't know better might have thought he'd seen a ghost. And, well, Jiang Yongji did look a bit like one. He had his head lowered into the sink, water dripping from his hair. From certain angles, he almost looked like a drowning victim, face down in the basin. Hey, what are you doing? If you're not dead, why are you slumped over like that? Su Yongchu, still startled, had just been happily planning to use the bathroom sink to wash vegetables when he saw what looked like a head submerged in water. If he didn't know better, he'd think this was the kind of scenario where a smart criminal might quickly take steps to handle a body in the bathroom to avoid scaring anyone else. Not that he'd know, of course, but if he did. One might know that fresh bloodstains can be cleaned with soap or a 10% potassium iodide solution. And those familiar with corpses might know how to estimate time of death by examining the body. Typically, rigor mortis sets in within 1 to 3 hours, causing stiffness, which later loosens after about 72 hours. A particularly clever person might even find a way to make use of this timeline by putting a 3-day-old body in a car, staging an accident to make it appear fresh, but that's only in places where advanced forensics aren't a thing. But back to reality. As Jiang Yongji finally pulled himself up from the sink, he smacked his face hard, blinking at Su Yongchu with a look of utter disbelief. The intensity of his stare was enough to make Su Yongchu's hair stand on end. What are you staring at? Don't look at me like that. Jiang Yongji was silent for a moment. He first lowered his head, then gave his face a little slap as he asked, Xiaolin's really wearing women's clothes? Yep. How did you convince him? I didn't. Xiaolin was already in women's clothes when he came downstairs. Su Yongchu seemed almost thrilled as he talked about it. Xiaolin looks amazing in that outfit. I always thought I was into mature types, but I guess I'm just into people who look good. Impressive, murmured Jiang Yongji, though he was quietly troubled. Xiaolin's behavior was odd. Had something happened to him? Maybe it had something to do with their shopping trip. He stopped mid-thought. Shopping trip. What would he have bought? The answer was suddenly clear. So, Xiaolin must have bought more women's clothes. But why? Xiaolin was a guy, wasn't he? Unless Xiaolin secretly liked wearing them. Or maybe he actually was a girl. But how could a man suddenly turn into a woman? Puzzled, Jiang Yongji explained his theory to Su Yongchu, who looked at him as though he'd been speaking in riddles. Think about it. Normally, if a guy wears women's clothes, it's either as a joke or something he'd never do. But Xiaolin seemed hesitant, conflicted. You mean? Finally, Su seemed close to understanding, and Jiang Yongji felt a glimmer of hope. But then, Su just shook his head. If you're trying to say something, just say it. Stop being cryptic. Idiot. What I mean is, maybe Xiaolin has realized he might actually be a girl, which is why he's been so conflicted. Ever heard of people who are born with the wrong gender? Jiang Yongji was starting to think Xiaolin might be one of those people. After all, how could a regular guy look that good without even trying, without makeup? As for the idea of a male becoming female later in life, Su Yongchu recalled something from biology. Certain plants and animals undergo a process known as metamorphosis. They whispered for a while longer and finally decided to bring the mystery to the president of the drama and detective club, Gong Sini. Not long after, Gong Sini received a message notification while he was analyzing a case for the local police. Pausing to read the lengthy text, he stroked his chin, deep in thought. And then, like a bolt of lightning, he understood. He quickly replied. From what I know, there's a medical condition called pseudohermaphroditism. You guys should look it up. Maybe your friend has this condition. And if I'm not mistaken, that friend of yours is Lin Youzi, right? You'd better investigate and, if it's real, get him medical help sooner rather than later. True to his reputation as the department's rookie detective, Gong Sini had solved the case with a few well-chosen words. The two quickly searched it up. Pseudohermaphroditism. Just then, a voice sounded from outside. Are those veggies washed yet? I'm ready to start cooking. All set. Su Yongchu hastily grabbed the half-washed vegetables and sprang to his feet, whispering to Jiang Yongji, hurry up and keep researching. Once we're sure, we'll tell Old Third, and then we'll set up a time to take Xiaolin for a checkup. Got it. You just go handle the veggies. Su Yongchu couldn't shake the odd feeling from Jiang Yongji's words. Why had he said, go on ahead, as if he were sending him off to some fate instead of just taking the vegetables out of the bathroom? Pushing aside the thought, he carried the bowl of veggies over to the kitchen. Xiaolin, the veggies are here. Did you wash them properly? Lin Youzi asked without even looking up, busy stirring the contents of the wok. Su hesitated. Truthfully, he wasn't entirely sure if they were washed well enough. He'd been so distracted by the conversation that he'd only rinsed them a few times. That should count as washed, right? Seeing his hesitation, Lin Youzi had just finished a dish of stir-fried meat. Glancing over, he asked, you spent all the time in the bathroom and you're not sure if you washed the veggies? They're clean. All right, toss them in. I'll go prepare the seasoning. Got it. A bit nervously, Su tossed the veggies into the pan. They were supermarket veggies, probably clean enough. It was a batch of sweet potato leaves. Meanwhile, Lin Youzi, wielding a cleaver, was efficiently smashing garlic and chopping bones. Today's dish featured something unique, bone rice. He planned to pack rice and meat into the hollow parts of big bones and cook them, similar to bamboo tube rice. Those who got it would get it, those who didn't, well, he'd done his best to explain. The little kitchen maiden had tried her best. The kitchen had several burners going, one for soup, one for frying fish, and one for stir-frying the sweet potato leaves. There was even a barbecue grill where Lin Youzi placed the prepared bone rice to roast. He'd steamed the rice in advance, stuffed it with meat and seasonings, sealed it, and placed it on the grill to cook. After a while, he'd open it, refill with rice, and grill it some more. Not complicated, but it required patience. The grill used smokeless coal, so there was no worry about too much smoke. Finally, he took over stir-frying the sweet potato leaves, working with a deftness that left Su watching in awe. Handling 4 dishes at once. Xiaolin was truly something else. Stop staring and start taking these dishes out, Lin Youzi called over his shoulder. Oh, right, got it. With dish after dish being prepared, Su Yongchu quickly became the delivery boy, running back and forth between the kitchen and the dining table. Just then, Jiang Yongji and Sun Mingren arrived to help. The soup's ready. Be careful, it's hot, said Lin Youzi, glancing at the steaming pot. I got it, Jiang volunteered, reaching out to grab the pot handles barehanded. Yikes. That's hot. He pulled back instantly, wincing in pain. It doesn't look smoky, how's it this hot? You're so clueless. Use a towel, wet it, then grab the handles. That way it won't burn, Lin Youzi explained patiently. Following the advice, Jiang Yongji wrapped a damp towel around the handles and tried again. Ugh, still hot. At a loss, he looked towards Xiaolin with a pitiful, pleading expression. Good grief, you're hopeless, Lin Youzi sighed, taking the towel himself. Just get the vegetables out of the wok, will you? Sure thing. This should be simple enough, Jiang thought, scooping the veggies out of the pan. But as he worked, he noticed something strange. Xiaolin wasn't even flinching from the heat. With the towel in hand, Lin Youzi held the scalding pot effortlessly, not even breaking a sweat. His casual handling of the boiling hot soup left the 3 roommates slack-jawed in amazement. Meanwhile, Sun Mingren was busy dishing out the rice. The sweet potato leaves could stand a moment of extra heat, so no worries there. Jiang Yongji, meanwhile, struggled with the veggies, which seemed to keep slipping off the spatula. Here, let me handle that, Lin Youzi offered, stepping in smoothly. Lin Youzi returned to find the 3 young masters huddled around, hesitating and fumbling about with something unfamiliar. It became clear, their families had rarely, if ever, required them to do tasks like this. If they had, they wouldn't be so cautious and clumsy with it. While Lin Youzi had no prior experience himself, his natural talent kicked in, and he'd managed to figure out cooking on his own. At last, dinner was ready. The table was filled with an impressive spread. As they looked at the feast before them, a shared thought popped into their heads. If we could marry someone like Shaolin, it would be a blessing beyond measure. A different feast every day, who wouldn't want that? They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, and right now, all three of their hearts were thoroughly captivated by Lin Youzi's cooking. This pork bone rice is amazing, so flavorful. Yeah, and this fish head soup, it's so fresh, and the broth is so thick and white. This stir-fried meat is perfect too. Not one of them touched the sweet potato leaves. Each praised Lin Youzi's cooking skills. He only gave a slight smile. They might be enjoying the food now, but when it came time to wash the dishes, they'd be crying. Cooking lovers don't always love washing dishes. But those who don't like cooking, they definitely don't like washing dishes. Dinner finally wrapped up. None of them knew that this meal was Lin Youzi's way of saying goodbye to his past self. Looking at the mess of empty dishes, he thought to himself, "Let my past end here today. Tomorrow, it's time to embrace the future." Tomorrow, November 13th, was his next match. If he won, it would mark his 10th consecutive victory. The main competition was already halfway over. The finals would wrap up on November 25th, and every day until then, he'd have a match against an opponent whose identity remained unknown until the last minute. Each matchup was determined in real time by a supercomputer analyzing various metrics from competitors' performance data, based on algorithms known only to the organizers. "I'm heading up now. It's been a long day, and I'm tired." "Okay, Shaolin, get some rest." The three were still eating, savoring every bite. After Lin Youzi went upstairs, Lao Da and Lao Er exchanged a look before turning to Lao San. What? Why are you both staring at me like that?" Lao San, Sun Mingren, felt a bit anxious. Could it be they'd found out he'd been secretly investigating whether Shaolin might be sick? Ahem, well. Yongchu and I think Shaolin might be ill, so we wanted to ask for your thoughts. Sun Mingren sighed, smiling bitterly. "I should have known I couldn't hide anything from you." "All right, I admit it, I've been looking into Shaolin's condition. But I need a blood sample to confirm my suspicions." "And you kept this from me?" Lao Da pointed to himself in confusion, eyes wide with surprise. Now Lao San was equally bewildered. What were they even talking about? Why did they suddenly think Shaolin was sick? Could it be? The three of them reached the same conclusion. "You go first." In unison. "Let me explain." Not wanting to play games, Lao Er kept it short, not wanting anyone to think he was just trying to make conversation longer than necessary. After Lao Er's quick explanation, Lao Sen shared his own theory. "So, you're saying there's a strong possibility that Shaolin is sick?" "Exactly. If we get the chance, we should try to take him to a hospital for a full checkup. But that won't be easy. You've seen how much he resists these things. And now, he's even started cross-dressing. It seems like he's either reacting to something, maybe in despair or trying to cope. So what's the plan?" "My suggestion is not to rush. Once Lao Da's matches are over, he'll have a break. We'll have a full week then. During those 7 days, we could discreetly obtain a blood sample from Shaolin to test whether it's X or Y." At this, Lao Da and Lao Er's eyes lit up. Right. That could work. Time ticked by. Early the next morning, while the three roommates continued to sleep soundly, Lin Youzi, the only one competing today, headed to the commercial center of Wancheng. He donned his straw coat and began wandering around. It was only a little after 8 a.m. Early for non-competitors, but not for a contestant like him. Since the Free Fighting Star's death, the commercial streets in District 16 had returned to a state of peace. In this calm atmosphere, Lin Youzi stopped at a vendor stall displaying colorful windmills and mechanical toys. A gentle breeze spun the windmills, catching his eye. He liked it. "How much for this one, boss?" 5 yuan. 5 yuan for a small windmill was quite reasonable. In other tourist areas, it might cost 20. I'll take one. Here you go. The vendor handed him the windmill, and after paying, Lin Youzi continued browsing with the windmill in hand. Just ahead, a tall man appeared. With his sharp, piercing gaze and defined jawline, he looked like a character straight out of a romance novel, the typecast domineering CEO. His attire was custom-tailored, exuding luxury. Ever since experiencing the tyrant's spirit armor, he'd come to enjoy wearing extravagant clothes. He looked forward to someone mistaking him for ordinary, so he could put them in their place. After losing Lin Youzi, he had grown somewhat obsessive, adopting a tyrannical persona. His face held a constant smirk. So that's the famous strawcoat fighter. And a woman, I hear. Interesting. With that, he adjusted his outfit and strode confidently forward. Pardon me, lovely lady. On this fine morning, I wish you well. May I have the pleasure of inviting you to breakfast? I know a great spot. Lin Youzi gave him a look like he was an idiot and turned away without a word. What a downer, he was sure the heavens were targeting him again. First thing in the morning, and here came a fool to ruin his mood. Irritated, he stuck the windmill in the ground by the roadside, planning to retrieve it after the match, and walked into the competition area. The sign warning, "No entry for non-competitors," prevented the CEO from following him inside. Standing outside, he fell silent. What am I doing, throwing myself away like this? It was just a failed relationship, years of feelings gone to waste, but how could he, a man, let something so small defeat him? Ripping off his fancy clothes, he stepped forward and took the windmill. Thank you, strawcoat fighter. Your actions have reminded me of who I am. Ancient wisdom spoke of those who enlightened others as worthy of deep gratitude. The strawcoat fighter had nearly awakened him from his foolishness. With powers like his, he should work on controlling them, not let them cloud his judgment. He left. And he wouldn't be seen for a long time. 9 a.m. The competition officially began. Lin Youzi took the stage. It was no longer a secret that the strawcoat fighter was a woman. The organizers had delayed her matches, mindful of the challenge of finding a worthy, fair opponent. Pairing her with skilled martial artists often led to hesitation from opponents, and weaker competitors resulted in one-sided matches with little entertainment value. Today, however, she faced a military team on an assignment. All of them were from the Vermilion Bird Division. And all were women. A fair match, woman to woman. District 16, match, begin. At the referee's signal, the crowd erupted into cheers. Go. Charge. Come on, knock the strawcoat fighter's hat off. Everyone was eager to catch a glimpse of the face hidden beneath that dark veil. Little did they know, beneath the mask lay yet another, even more mesmerizing, mask. The match had begun. Strawcoat fighter, I've heard a lot about you. How about we grab a meal after the match if I win? Don't be too quick to say no. I believe that someone with your strength must know a few secrets. If you come with me after the match, I'll tell you some of what I know. As captain of the Vermilion Bird 4th Division, she was tasked with recruiting strong female fighters. There were still far too few powerful women in her line of work. She had previously tried to recruit the Valkyrie, but that hadn't gone well. The Valkyrie was far too prideful to even consider a conversation. The strawcoat fighter, however, was different. She'd been on the captain's radar for a while, but there had been no matches until today. Today's matchup was no accident. A few strings had been pulled behind the scenes. In other words, this match was, in essence, an interview. Joining the officials. Lin Youzi had no intention of joining them, but he was very interested in the secrets they might know. Beat me, and I'll consider it. Good, I like that confidence in you. The captain smiled, pulling out the spiked club strapped to her back. Without further ado, she swung it straight at Lin Youzi's head. In an instant, Lin Youzi's pupils narrowed. He quickly stomped his left foot, using the rebound to spring out of the club's path. What on earth? A woman wielding a spiked club. Lin Youzi was surprised. After getting out of range, he drew the short knives from his waist and started circling forward, closing the distance carefully. Clang. Clang. Despite being wooden weapons, the clash echoed with the sharp clang of metal. The two entered close quarters combat. The captain grinned, her eyes gleaming with an unexplainable intensity. Strawcoat fighter, you're strong, I'm determined to claim you as my own. You can try. Lin Youzi's face remained calm, his cold response like that of an untouchable, aloof figure on a distant mountain peak. Strawcoat fighter, I want to conquer you. The words were peculiar, to say the least. Unbeknownst to many, the 4th Division captain had a rather unique personality. She had a need to either conquer strong opponents, or be conquered by them. Nothing pleased her more than sharing close bonds with her teammates. Now, finding someone with such strength ignited her fighting spirit. The spiked club swung with unstoppable momentum. Lin Youzi was forced to back off, watching for an opening to break through. Against a spiked club, short knives were out of the question, he needed more range. He retreated, pulled out his bow, and quickly loaded 5 arrows from his quiver, shouting sharply. Take this. 5 arrows flew in 5 different directions, tracing confusing arcs in the air. The captain, realizing the threat, adjusted her stance and held the spiked club horizontally to block in front of her. However, Lin Youzi's arrows were not so easy to deflect. But she was no ordinary fighter. A high-level practitioner, she sensed 2 arrows coming from behind her. She swung her arm backward, somehow managing to swat the arrows down. In an instant, the crowd stood up in shock. How is that even possible? To knock arrows out of the air with bare hands was as difficult as dodging bullets. It required not just speed and strength but a perfect understanding of the arrow's trajectories and unshakable confidence in one's abilities. Even Lin Youzi was taken aback. In all his years using a bow, this was the first time anyone had batted down his arrows so directly. This level of skill. As expected of the officials. With access to so many secrets, it was no surprise they could produce a monster like this. With this level of power, one could practically walk over anyone else in a fight. It seemed he'd need to take this seriously. Perhaps it was time to try out the new ability he'd been developing. With special effects now imbued in his attacks, Lin Youzi had a new trick up his sleeve. An undetectable wave of energy flowed around his arrows as he aimed, firing 5 arrows in quick succession once again. Whoosh! The 5 arrows shot forth. The 4th Division captain saw them coming and, confident in her skills as a high-level practitioner, didn't hesitate. Tossing aside her spiked club, she raised her hands, ready to deflect them. But something strange happened. The arrows struck her directly, and she seemed utterly unaware, as if lost in a trance, allowing the arrows to hit her. The tranquilizer took effect instantly, and she collapsed to the ground. Ha! I thought she was really something, but maybe knocking those 2 arrows aside earlier was just luck. Right. She was way too confident, throwing her weapon down like that. What did she think, that she could catch those arrows barehanded? Another win for the Strawcoat fighter, but when is a real challenger going to show up and knock that hat off? The spectators had no idea what had truly occurred. Lin Youzi lowered his bow, knowing only he and his opponent understood the real story. In reality, those 5 arrows had been manipulated to alter their trajectory through both space and time. In a hypothetical B space, the 4th Division captain had successfully blocked all the arrows. However, Lin Youzi's technique involved a temporal rewind of the arrows in the primary A space. This essentially reset the arrows' positions before they were blocked, tricking the captain into believing she had deflected them in B space, though they were, in fact, never blocked at all. In simpler terms, it was like she had been trapped in a hallucination. However, this wasn't mere illusion. Lin Youzi's technique inflicted actual physical damage. After the arrows struck, every action in B space was recorded, but the memory of the events would remain blank in her mind until the missing B space memories naturally reintegrated. District 16, victory goes to the Strawcoat fighter. With the match won, Lin Youzi stepped down from the ring, changed out of his fighting clothes, and happily headed over to where he'd left his windmill by the tree. He paused, looking left and right. There was no mistaking it, he'd stuck the windmill in this exact spot before the match, yet now it was nowhere to be found. After searching the area thoroughly, he confirmed it was really gone. Hey, where's my windmill? Who took my windmill? Did someone actually steal it? Seriously, who steals a windmill? After a moment's thought, an image of a certain person popped into his head. It must have been that wannabe CEO who took it. Unbelievable. Can't buy your own, so you go and steal someone else's windmill. Since the man was nowhere to be found, there was no point in reporting a missing windmill to the authorities. Lin Youzi resigned himself to the loss and decided he'd just buy another one. Meanwhile, Lin Youzi sneezed repeatedly as dark clouds gathered overhead. Who's thinking about me? Could it be my dad? He rubbed his nose, shrugged, and looked up at the sky. Seeing the clouds thickening, he ignored it and returned to his training. If he wanted to grow stronger, strong enough to find the real Lin Youzi, then he couldn't afford to slack off. Come on, rain if you want. Let the storm bear witness to my resolve. Boom. And just like that, a sudden, localized downpour began. In the dormitory, the three roommates were watching TV when an emergency weather alert interrupted the broadcast. Attention, Wancheng residents. A localized rainstorm has been detected over the Villa district. There are no signs yet of the cloud system expanding, but we advise everyone to prepare for rain. Please take rain gear with you to avoid any inconvenience during the martial arts tournament. Additionally, free disposable raincoats will be available at the Wancheng Commercial Center. As the rain arrives, we ask citizens to form orderly lines to collect one raincoat per person. Please refrain from taking extras. Thank you for your cooperation. The report ended with drone footage showing a solitary figure training intensely in the midst of the downpour. Talk about youthful energy. The drone camera zoomed out, giving the trio a full view of the bizarre rain scene. Sure enough, the downpour was entirely localized, pouring only on that one person, while the nearby villas enjoyed sunny skies. This guy must have really ticked off the heavens to get that kind of special treatment, huh? Yeah, looks like it. You think there's something wrong with his head? It's pouring, and instead of taking shelter, he's training out there. No clue. The guy's living in a luxury villa, so it's probably none of our business. After all, villas like those weren't just for anyone with money, you needed serious status. To put it simply, their own family's wealth was a drop in the ocean by comparison. Meanwhile, on his way back, Lin Youzi noticed the sudden rain over on the other side. Being someone who often felt targeted by the heavens, he couldn't help but feel like someone else was being put through the same trial. Driven by curiosity, he decided to take a look. From behind the villa wall, he spotted something, a little windmill. Well. It really was you, huh? Serves you right. You got tied to me, and now you're getting rained on by the heavens. He chuckled to himself, finding odd amusement in this. It was strange to be pleased by someone else's misfortune, yet here he was, enjoying it thoroughly. But he also noticed that the windmill itself hadn't gotten wet. Oh, fine. You look so pitiful, I'll let you keep the windmill, he muttered, stepping down from the wall and heading back to school. Shortly after he left, several practitioners arrived, all discreetly camouflaged. They observed the person being targeted by the heavens, suspecting that this might be none other than the first of their kind. The first was thought to be female, but what if she possessed the power to disguise herself as male? Better safe than sorry. Qian Wujin, meanwhile, didn't care if this person was the first. He simply wanted the soul of another practitioner. First, though, he needed to recruit a few more followers driven by the lust for wealth. Wait for me, delicious soul. I'll be coming for you soon. As soon as he spoke, the sky cleared up, leaving bright blue skies overhead. The other practitioners, realizing the ominous implication, quickly withdrew. Lin Youzi turned toward the villa wall. The tyrant's spirit armor gave him a heightened awareness of emotions, particularly negative ones, and he could sense a distinct malice in the air. Is someone targeting me? This rain, could it be a practitioner planning to make a move? Wiping the rain from his face, he recalled the strange weather in Wancheng, the unusual cases popping up, and the elusive killer from the Wancheng dismemberment case. So it's you, then. If you're coming here to die, don't blame me. Lin Youzi felt an overwhelming urge for a fight. And so, he began investigating, determined to track down his new adversary. Qian Wujin's actions had brought a storm of trouble onto himself. Especially since messing with an enraged, heartbroken man was never a good idea. Back at the dorm, Lin Youzi changed into his latest outfit. Every day, he wore a different style, determined to get used to it. Not because he thought he looked amazing in it. Definitely not. He just didn't want to be dealing with any identity crises when Mystic Realm Online descended. Shaolin, we're planning to go on a trip in a few days. Hiking, bungee jumping, you in? Sure. With some time to spare, he was open to it. Great. So, do you have a fear of heights? We'll need to go to the hospital for a checkup, maybe a quick blood test, too. At this, Lin Youzi looked at them, expression calm, eyes cold. These three were plotting against me. Why a blood test? In this sensitive phase of adjusting to his identity, Lin Youzi was wary of many things. Noticing the slight tension in his friends, he chose not to confront them but agreed to the test without asking for an explanation. He preferred to investigate on his own. A few days later, Lauda finished his 20 matches with more losses than wins, ending with a mere 8 points. With the minimum qualifying score set at 25 points, Lauda was officially out of the competition. Lin Youzi, however, completed his 20 matches with a perfect score of 55 points. A new rule was then introduced. Any contestant with a perfect score could skip the qualifying and revival rounds and proceed directly to the finals for a chance at the championship. This meant that, for the next 54 days, Lin Youzi would have plenty of free time. This year's watching contestants included several perfect scorers: Valkyrie, Grandpa at the Park, Dark-Robed Fighter, and Strawcoat Fighter. These four formed the top tier, firmly securing their positions on the leaderboard. The second tier featured Hidden Blade, captain of the 4th Division, and One Punch Fighter, each with a fair shot at making the top 100. Everyone could see that this year's competition was tough. For perfect scores were unprecedented, and these four were hailed as champion seeds, all expected to make it to the top 100 in the finals. The grand finals would pit the top 10 contestants against each other, with each competing in one-on-one matches. Points would be tallied based on wins, losses, and ties. Each contestant started with 1 point, gained a point for a win, lost one for a loss, and neither gained nor lost for a tie. A perfect score of 10 points would go to anyone who won every match. The champion title would go to the contestant with the highest score. With the new rule, contestants entering the qualifying rounds were feeling the pressure. In both the qualifying and revival rounds, contestants from across the nation would compete in brutal elimination rounds. If a contestant lost in the qualifying round, they'd have one more chance in the revival round. But if they lost again, they would be out of the finals. In watching alone, 1,000 contestants had made it to the next phase, with the cutoff score for the 1,000th position set at 25 points, meaning each of these contestants had achieved at least one 10-win streak. Across various cities, the score required to advance varied. In some places, 8 points sufficed, while in others, it took as many as 13 points. Wanching's threshold, however, was the highest, cementing its reputation as a hub of martial virtue, producing 4 champion seeds. Many sponsors reached out to the top 4, hoping to secure endorsement deals. But none could be reached. The only one found, Dark-Robed Fighter, seemed obsessed with the idea that the world was a false reality, urging people to join him in creating a new truth. When his condition worsened, he would even mock the sponsors, calling them ants in a cage, who didn't understand their fate. After that, they stopped trying. On the Valkyrie side, the Vermilion Bird Division once again approached her. Valkyrie, you must know the world is on the brink of change. Joining us early would be in your best interest. But Sharifang showed no interest in their pitch. She'd noticed that things were shifting rapidly in this lifetime and decided it was time to prepare her family and bring Lin Youzi's grandparents to safety. As a member of the upper circles, she was aware of the darkening situation in international waters. The Mystic Realm Online continued its relentless advance, and it was estimated that within 6 months, it would descend fully. Before that happened, she needed to secure some powerful artifacts. One of them lay at Blue Star's sacred mountain, Kunlun. Meanwhile, Grandpa at the Park continued watching live broadcasts from his security booth, enjoying the air conditioning. Many fair-skinned, long-legged beauties had tried to get closer to him, hoping for deeper interactions, but he turned them all down. Sure, he was intrigued. But that was as far as it went. Looking was fine, maybe even a light touch. But anything more? That wasn't for him. After all, he was a member of the Guan family, and the bloodline had to be kept pure and secure. As for the last, Strawcoat Fighter, the businesses that came looking for endorsements were all from women's clothing, lingerie, and bikini shops. These stores wanted to build a brand around the mysterious allure of the Strawcoat Fighter, aiming to create a line reminiscent of Victoria's Secret, but with a unique twist called Strawcoat's Secret. Their idea was to produce intimate, stylish clothing inspired by this mysterious, edgy aesthetic. Lin Youzi firmly rejected every offer. He'd rather throw himself off the ring and die than accept such a partnership. Besides, he wasn't naive about their real motive. Obviously, they just wanted to see his face. Humph, women. After being shut down, these companies turned to the second-tier fighters. The Hidden Blade caught the attention of a cold weapons store. Their slogan for the ad: if you want to wield your blade like Hidden Blade, merging sword and self into effortlessly cool and fierce moves, then get the Longquan double swords, recommended by Hidden Blade. The posters featured various images of Hidden Blade, one where he stood proudly with the Longquan blades, another with a blade on his shoulder, and one pointing a sword forward. One of the posters even included a slogan: if you're a true brother, come and spar with me. Buy the Longquan double swords and cut me down for just 999 yuan. The Longquan double swords, an all-new edition, crafted by ancient forging techniques. A brand of excellence you can trust. Grab your phone now and order. Hidden Blade later remarked that if anyone dared ask him to film another ad like this, they'd receive 999 cuts from him first. The fourth captain, being officially affiliated, was too busy recruiting the Valkyrie to be found by advertisers. Instead, sponsors reached out to the One-Punch Fighter, a hip-hop-loving brawler who was always seen with a baseball bat in hand. They wanted him to endorse rock and hip-hop albums or baseball gear, but he chose to represent boxing instead. To give it your all and knock out your opponent is the highest respect you can show, his poster read, showcasing him with a baseball bat slung over his shoulder in a boxing-themed ad. People saw it and instantly understood. So, you bring a weapon to a fist fight. And if you're losing, you pull it out and deliver a few whacks. Viewers quickly caught on to the style, noting the wayward outfits as part of the ambush tactics. Amid all the commercial chaos, Lin Youzi's dorm remained one of the few quiet places. Shaolin, are you ready? We're heading out. Where to? Kunlun. That day, flights to Kunlun were sparse, but the number of people headed there was anything but. The reason? Kunlun had recently shown signs of strange phenomena. Several days earlier, someone claimed to have seen mysterious light-filled holes in the mountains and to have heard strange sounds coming from within. Yet, there had been no official confirmation or explanation. Initially, Lauda and the others hadn't planned a destination, but this rumor prompted them to choose Kunlun. Hearing Kunlun triggered memories for Lin Youzi, thoughts of the ancient city of Lolan. The last time he'd been lured to a place like this, he'd encountered all sorts of bizarre creatures. Now, he looked at the three friends, and after a moment of thought, went upstairs to retrieve his long silent, double-wood bow and Lin Yu arrows. Whether it exposed his 100-step accuracy or not didn't matter. He had a hunch that this trip to Kunlun wouldn't be a simple one. Carrying a bow and looking so serious, this was the first time the three of them had seen Lin Youzi like this. They barely dared to breathe. Shaolin, what's with this? I'm heading out, so it's only normal to bring something for self-defense. Normal. The eldest among them was confused. Why bring a weapon? Lin Youzi didn't bother to explain. He walked out of the small building ahead of them. A moment later, his voice called back, "Let's go, don't just stand there." This commanding Shaolin was someone they had never seen before. Startled, the three finally snapped out of their daze and followed him closely. For a moment, it felt as if Lin Youzi had become the leader. He directed them to hail a cab, took them to the airport, and handled check-in. "Hello, ma'am." For the 7th time, someone asked to see his bow carrying permit. Lin Youzi had anticipated this and prepared accordingly. This time, he didn't attempt any disguise. He wore his training outfit for easy movement and had tied his hair up in a high ponytail. He handed over the bow permit without a hitch. But his three companions were stunned. A bow permit? That's not easy to get. Wasn't Shaolin supposed to be the frail one? They had always thought of Lin Youzi's archery as a hobby, like a fancy dance routine, something ornamental, not dangerous. Now it turned out the joke was on them. At security, he showed his permit again. Finally, in the departure lounge, the eldest, Jiang Yongji, couldn't hold back his curiosity. He approached and asked, "Shaolin, can I take a look at your bow permit?" "Sure, go ahead. After realizing his roommates were plotting against him, Lin Youzi felt a bit conflicted. He wanted to show off some of his strength, to warn his roommates not to mess with him lightly. Friends are hard to come by, he didn't want them breaking his trust. Soon, the bow permit was being passed between the three of them. A 4-stone bow that meant a draw weight of around 200 pounds. And the evaluation even read, accuracy at 100 paces. The three shared wry smiles. All along, it turned out they were the weak ones. Then they thought further, wasn't Xiao Lin, brother Lin, sister Lin, supposed to have a disability? If someone who could pull a 200-pound bow was considered disabled, then what were they? Vegetables. Brother Lin, you've given us quite a scare. Why didn't you tell us you were this impressive? I didn't think it was necessary to mention. And it was true, he had a point. Even if he had said so, it wouldn't have changed the facts. You could only blame Lin Youzi's appearance for being so misleading. He looked soft, cute, and harmless, yet had the strength to knock their hats off with a single shot. All those schemes to sign Xiao Lin up for surgery, or jokes about marrying someone as delicate as him, they might end up experiencing the full meaning of domestic violence firsthand. If they ever got on Xiao Lin's bad side, he might make them run 99 paces first, then, with a whoosh, pierce them with an arrow before they reached the 100th. Terrifying Xiao Lin. They started shivering involuntarily. Returning the bow permit, the eldest still felt like he was in a dream. Xiao Lin could make money before, which was surprising but manageable. But now, Xiao Lin looked more like a war god. Wait. The eldest froze, glancing over at Lin Youzi, remembering the times when Xiao Lin would suddenly disappear, his bow permit, and even the rumors on the campus forum about the goddess of the equestrian field. And the mysterious, straw-cloaked archer, at the competition. All of it pieced together in his mind, forming a hypothesis. The same archery skills, the same female figure. Could it be? After hesitating for a moment, he looked around, made sure no one was paying attention, and then lowered his voice to ask. Sister Lin, you're the straw-cloaked archer, aren't you? The words had barely left his mouth before the other two turned to Lin Youzi, a flurry of memories flashing through their minds. Retracing their steps, they pieced the evidence together, and it all pointed to the same conclusion. Xiao Lin, no, brother Lin, sister Lin, was indeed the legendary, straw-cloaked archer. No wonder some of the things he'd said to reassure them had that unmistakable aura of the straw-cloaked archer. It was him all along. Having been found out, Lin Youzi decided to stop hiding. With his new abilities and the tracing power, he didn't have to keep tiptoeing around, he could finally act more boldly. Besides, he knew his male identity couldn't last much longer. Once Phantom World OL arrived, everything would go through a new census, and by then, Lin Youzi would vanish entirely. I am, he admitted. You're all pretty sharp to figure that out. He'd admitted it. He really admitted it. The three of them felt a renewed sense of despair. Here was the top seed for the championship, their roommate all along. The gulf in their abilities made them feel small and inadequate. Sensing their growing dejection, and the hint that they might turn back rather than continue, Lin Youzi also thought it best if they didn't go. Kunlun wasn't a place for ordinary people. You should head back, he advised calmly. In the park, there's Captain Guan, the head guard at the security booth. You can train in archery with him while I'm away. Noticing their confusion, he added, I learned archery from Grandpa Guan. That one line struck them like an arrow to the heart. They'd never expected the smiling, kindly Grandpa Guan, the gentle park guard, was such a martial arts powerhouse that he could train someone as skilled as the straw-cloaked archer. All right, we'll head back, the three agreed, deciding not to follow him to Kunlun. As they prepared to leave, Lin Youzi turned his back on them, not wanting to see their faces. With a flat tone, he asked, what did you want my blood for? Ba-dump, ba-dump. Whose heart was racing so fast? Theirs. Who would have guessed that brother Lin was this perceptive? The eldest smiled wryly, realizing that Xiao Lin had known about everything from the start. Taking responsibility as the eldest, he stepped forward, explaining the whole situation and claiming all the blame himself. After he finished, Lin Youzi stayed silent for a long while. Sensing the tension, the other two spoke up, pleading for understanding. Lin Youzi, this was all our idea. We just thought, maybe if you had surgery, you could lead a normal life again. The word stung. Lin Youzi clenched his fists, struggling to control his anger, his voice low and cold. Leave. Now. Before I lose my temper. Yes, we're going. They sensed the suppressed fury beneath his calm voice and hurried out of the airport. Only after their footsteps faded did Lin Youzi finally unclench his fists. These three, perhaps they'd meant well, but there was selfishness in it too. Was this the influence of destiny? He felt a pang of disappointment. Maybe it would have been better not to make friends in the first place. That way, he wouldn't have to feel let down or angry. He had thought that deceiving his roommate's feelings had been a fair trade. But for them to actually plan on sending him for surgery? What if he really was just naturally feminine? Heh. A bitter laugh escaped him, his heart bruised by their betrayal. Tricking him into hiking and the talk about drawing blood, they were all just excuses. Their true goal had been to push him into surgery. Emotions churned within him, complex and conflicting, and the ninth petal on his shoulder began to darken at its edges. With this final surge of emotion, he was nearly ready to activate his abilities. Everything, it seemed, was predestined. Destiny, as they say. With the boarding announcement echoing, Lin Youzi collected his emotions and walked toward the ticket check. Regardless of what happened, he had already shared the true identity of Grandpa Guan in the park, giving them a direction to pursue if they wished to train. That was more than enough. Hello, ma'am. Once again, he presented his archery permit, and the attendant's attitude shifted to respectful. He'd booked a seat in the very last row this time. Originally, it was meant for the four of them to sit together. Now, he'd be sitting alone. Soon after, the plane took off. From a distance, the three of them watched the plane disappear into the sky, feeling as if their friendship was fading away with it. The eldest clutched his chest, a dull ache spreading through him, and spoke hoarsely. Was it our fault? The third shook his head, voice heavy as he kept his gaze on the shrinking plane. We messed up. The second looked on as well, realizing how absurd it was that they had planned to go to Kunlun together, yet somehow only Shaolin was on that plane. They felt like fools. We were so full of ourselves, never considering Shaolin's feelings. He was a martial artist, strong and skilled, willing to cook for them, joke around, and yet they had gone so far as to disrespect him with this reckless, presumptive act. Before, they still had time to repair the situation, but this time, they had truly crossed the line. Shaolin had likely sensed their intentions from the start and had given them every chance. And they, in their foolishness, had let each one slip by, thinking themselves clever all the while. Let's go back, the eldest said softly. Go back. For what? What's the point now? I want to go home. I haven't fully mastered my family staff techniques. This time, I'm going to make sure I do. The eldest had found his purpose. The second and third exchanged glances, feeling adrift. Their families had no ancient martial secrets, one of them only had connections, while the other simply had money, especially the third, whose family was quite wealthy. I think I'll seek out Captain Guan and beg him to teach us archery. I want to help. There was no need to finish. They all understood. The second chimed in too. I'd like to do something to make amends, too. All right, then that's settled. See you next year. Next year. The eldest would head home and likely stay for a long time. They would only see each other again once the new school year began. The other two would return to campus, determined to follow through on their decision. From that moment, the three began to walk their separate paths. At the same time, Yin Yanzhou's original plan had been to track down the scammer pretending to be Lin Youzi, someone who, it seemed, had fooled him completely. However, his search had hit a wall. After 10 years of online friendship, he realized he didn't even know her real name, only that she attended university in Wancheng. This was hopeless. How could he be so careless? He cursed himself for not finding out more earlier. Frustrated by his fruitless search, he accepted a mission from his family, accompanying a military team to Kunlun. The higher-ups had received a report of a strange sound, theorizing it was some mysterious creature from the classic of mountains and seas. The think tank suspected that Blue Star's consciousness, in its effort to resist the invasion of World OL, might revive ancient creatures. And with them, dragons might reappear. This creature, after all, was the totem of a nation, and they needed to be on the ground to secure first-hand information. The aerospace battleship had arrived. After picking up Yin Yanzhou, it hovered just 20 miles from Kunlun in under an hour, dropping off personnel as various combat vessels deployed the investigation team. Among them was the revered 5-star general, the second-ranked powerhouse before the Mystic World OL phenomenon. He had been relentless in his ambition to track down the number 1 rank holder. Now, bringing Yin Yanzhou aboard had 2 primary purposes. 1. Combat preparedness. Yin Yanzhou, equipped with the formidable Tyrant armor, was a combat asset not to be overlooked. 2. Protection. With higher powers aware of the heavenly Tao's designs, they prioritized Yin Yanzhou's safety, bringing him out of wanting to protect him from rival practitioners who might target him. News of the sudden local downpours and Yin Yanzhou's training in the rain had spread nationwide. People poked fun at the rain dance meme circulating, comparing his perseverance with others, equating it to not having the sense to get out of the rain. But Yin Yanzhou knew all too well, this was his path to mastery. As he disembarked, some around him couldn't resist a friendly tease. "Rain dance god, are you?" Ha! These were harmless jokes, and even the general chuckled, knowing it didn't match the fearsome image of the tyrant with his crimson armor and spear. The general cut them off with a firm command. "Enough. Yin's your teammate, so stay sharp and follow his lead." "Yes, sir." Orders were orders, discipline took precedence. The general then moved to set out the exploration plan for Kunlun. A few hours later, a mysterious convoy in military green coats set off. Every individual was outfitted in cutting-edge tech, electromagnetic rifles, tactical visors with high-sensitivity sound equipment, and brainwave sensors that could relay position data instantly. The visors included thermal tracking devices to spot nearby heat sources, even calculating the trajectory of falling leaves. Gas masks were standard issue. Dressed head to toe in this tactical gear, their faces obscured by the military coats, the group projected an aura of lethal precision. The task force was White Tiger Squad 1, consisting of 12 people, including Yin Yanzhou. With Mystic World's arrival, government had mobilized a strong contingent of practitioners. The elite squad consisted of 48 teams, each with 3 practitioners, totaling 144. Including Yin and affiliated practitioners, about 200 were in service, representing a fifth of the total number. Few civilians possessed these abilities, which explained the government's indifference. Meanwhile, outside Kunlun, civilian practitioners were arriving. One of them, a man with a headband, stood atop a rock, ostensibly photographing the landscape but actually mapping the terrain for his team. Qian Wujin was there as well. Known for his ruthless soul-collecting methods, he had brought a group of gamblers he'd mentally enslaved to use as pawns. He was keen to exploit this gathering of practitioners for his gain. And then, there was Lin Youzi. Alone, she stood by a tree, face obscured by a white mask, bow slung over her back. With her long hair flowing, onlookers might mistake her for a woman, but only her figure hinted at the truth. Seeing her alone, Qian Wujin marked her as an easy target, deciding to take down the white mask before targeting stronger opponents. Night fell. The practitioners had faded into the shadows, waiting patiently. They sought the light portals, which would only shine through the darkness, glowing to reveal new pathways. On a tall tree, Lin Youzi stood atop a branch, arms crossed, letting the wind sweep through his hair. His gaze was cold and focused, fixed on a point in the distance. There. A strange energy pulse was flickering.